Today we have baby daddy Joe Stapleton.
Uncle Daddy. I'm sorry, I
Uncle
wouldn't
Da-
step on an intro usually, but Baby Daddy's a lot different than Uncle Daddy. Sure, it was. I moved to Los Angeles, and I was a young man. I was 20 years old, and I had no money, and my friends had no money, and we sat in our living rooms on milk crates and just dealt out hold'em hands. I started writing like a letter, like an update, like a recap every week of what
like a
happened.
journal of what happened.
Yeah, like you'd read like a poker news recap of a final table. Like, it's here's what happened. This person, they got heads up. There was a major suck out, blah, blah, blah. Not knowing that like poker reporting was a thing. Like I didn't know that. I was just doing it as a joke. I was doing like a parody, thinking like who would ever want to read something like this except for the people in the game. And then that summer, my buddy got an internship at Card Player Magazine, and they wanted other writers, so my buddy showed them my newsletters, and they were like, oh, this is exactly what we do. Is we do poker recaps. Do you want to come work in
Okay, we're live. Today we have baby daddy Joe Stapleton.
Uncle Daddy. I'm sorry, I
Uncle
wouldn't
Da-
step on an intro usually, but Baby Daddy's a lot different than Uncle Daddy.
Baby
Uncle
daddy,
has no
Uncle Daddy Joe Stapleton. How you doing, Joe?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, Carl, man, and Gabe and Dana. Hello.
Hello.
We have Gabe, the human solver, and we have Dana Craven, a Tampa grinder, and one of Joe's old friends. We have a good show here for you, Joe.
Sorry, can I ask a question about Gabe, the human solver? Is that an ironic nickname, like me being the human calculator, or is he really good at the solving in his
He's
head?
actually good with solvers.
I consider myself a good poker player. I'm on the solver front lines, but we're not. I'm not a human solver. He flatters me. He flatters me.
You pray at the altar of the solver. You just don't have the Bible memorized yet.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow, you just created a meme and you didn't even know it. The poker player, praying at the solver altar. That's a good one. Joe, let's go way back and tell us what got you into poker first before the commentary.
Sure. It was I moved to Los Angeles, and I was a young man. I was 20 years old, and I had no money, and my friends had no money. And we sat in our living rooms on milk crates and just dealt out hold'em hands. Just deal out hands face up to everybody and deal a board out and go, that would have been a straight, that would have been a flush. Okay, next hand. And we just sort of killed time doing that. And then eventually we started playing $5 home games, tournaments, $5 home game tournaments. And then it became such a fun social activity that, $5 turned into $20, and it turned into $20 with rebuys. And then I discovered that there was a whole community of people that liked playing poker. And I was a production assistant at Mad TV. I was probably a production coordinator at this time. And I went and got an apartment that had a huge back patio in Los Angeles, massive. We could fit 2 poker tables on it. And every Sunday, I would have a $20 rebuy poker tournament at my house, and it got bigger and bigger. And eventually, we were at like 3 tables. We were, having like 21, 22 people every Sunday afternoon. And I started writing like a letter, like an update, like a recap every week of what happened.
Like a journal of what happened?
Yeah, like you'd read like a poker news recap of a final table. Like, here's what happened. This person, they got heads up. There was a major suck out, blah, blah, blah. Not knowing that like poker reporting was a thing. Like I didn't know that. I was just doing it as a joke. I was doing like a parody, thinking like who would ever want to read something like this except for the people in the game. And then that summer, my buddy got an internship at Card Player Magazine, and they wanted other writers, so my buddy showed them my newsletters, and they were like, oh, this is exactly what we do. Is we do poker recaps. Do you want to come work in Vegas for the summer? So that was kind of all tied in together, poker and sort of landing a job in poker. Like we're hand in hand.
So when you wrote the journal, what were you keeping track of? Like you were keeping track of hand history?
I was more like writing the story of the tournament that day. You know, like everyone converged at 12 p.m. and Jake was the first player to go broke when his aces got sucked out on by pocket kings. You know, we were six-handed when there was an altercation between Sergio and Tuck, and we had to take a vote on how to handle the situation. That kind of stuff. It was just it wasn't stats. It was just sort of, you know, a narrative as to what happened that day. And there was like a lot of jokes, like inside jokes and innuendo. And you know, when you play in a home game, there's memes basically. This is before anyone knew what to call memes, but there was like memes in the game. So I would use those. You know, there was like one player that we always accused of stinking up the bathroom, like, because it was just sort of his thing. So that would go in the recap. Like, Sergio is mysteriously absent for 15 minutes. Next player walked inside, said they almost keeled over and died. You know, that sort of stuff that, you know, nicknames for people, you know, some hand happens and now this person's known as Queens because he overplayed Queens, yada, yada, that sort of stuff. It was just meant to be like a bit of fun. Like just, again, a way to stay connected to people. It was just sort of like our little club, our little poker club. And I don't think any of us really knew how big poker was becoming.
Was there any aspiration to turn this into a job? Like, did you ever think that would turn into something you could make money out of?
Absolutely not. No. And I mean, it's really lucky that it happened to me because I was in Los Angeles wanting to be a comedy guy of some sort. I wasn't doing stand-up comedy. I wasn't taking improv classes. I was barely writing. I like wanted to be a comedy writer. And I really wasn't going for it. And so it was probably very unlikely that anything of that sort would have happened for me in Hollywood because I wasn't even trying. So when poker happened, I was like, oh, well, here's an opportunity that like I barely was looking for. Let's make the most of it. And I really just sort of went for it and decided that poker was kind of boring, especially back then when you're just reading hand histories online of hands that don't go to showdown on cardplayer.com and watching. I don't even think there were live streaming, you know, the World Series then yet. You could only watch the TV coverage when it came out. I was like, man, poker's kind of boring to watch, to be a spectator. What if we made poker funny and fun during the boring parts? And then when something amazing happens, we let the poker speak for itself. But the rest of the time, like, let's try to entertain people. They're here for entertainment. So that's kind of what I went for early on. It wasn't very popular, to be honest, with my bosses, at least.
Question before, let's go way back. What was Joe like in school? Were you like the class clown? Where did comedy come into play? Like, were you always the funny guy?
Comedy came into play because I wasn't the funny guy, because I was like a really like big loser, like a dork that didn't have a ton of friends and didn't have a ton of social life. And it wasn't even like nobody liked me, just like nobody knew me. I was just like a really easy kid to ignore because my parents were kind of strict. I couldn't do the things that other kids were allowed to do. So I just kind of like I was never part of like the in crowd anytime. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of had an opportunity when I changed schools as when I was like 13 or 14 years old. And I was like, oh, nobody knows me at this new school. Like, I'll just be the funny guy here. I'll just like, instead of being shy, I was like a shy straight A student. And I went from being like a shy straight A student to being like a very outgoing straight B student. And that trade-off of like not needing to be the best in school, like then kids started to sort of like be friendlier toward me. And I was bad at it. I was pretty bad at being the funny guy like the first 2 years. But by the time I became like a senior in high school, I kind of had it figured out and had my own group of friends. And we weren't the coolest kids in school, but we had our own thing. And, you know, it was an evolution. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And it's something I really worked toward. It's still very difficult for me. Like I was the kid, like the little kid hiding behind my mom's skirt, like at 4 or 5 years old, like terrified to walk into preschool. And there's still some of that in me. You just fight it. You just fight that
Takes a lot of grit to
shyness.
turn that shy kid into the extrovert that you are now. You're on. I mean, the reason I watched EPTs in the beginning before I actually met you at that comedy show, which we're gonna talk about, you really made watching EPTs fun. Like everybody was quoting your jokes. I literally at that time I thought you're like a poker genius because I didn't know much about poker. Like the value of your commentary, what you were like, I was listening to it and actually applying it in real life. That was like 2016, 2017 when I first started playing tournaments. But I was watching a podcast with you and Joe Ingram. You were saying that you're not a pro and you never wanted to be a pro as far as like commentary. But I was taking what you were saying back in those days at face value. I'm like, wow, this guy knows his shit. But
well, I think
anyway.
I think I do know my shit for like a certain level of player, and that's the sort of player that I always want to be speaking to. Not because I can't speak to the expert player. You know, what they know is already far beyond what I know. But I think that when it comes to TV, that's who we should be speaking to. Is people who are newish to the game. We want to grab them. We want to entertain them. We want to make them have a good time. And if you get to the point where my commentary is like too rudimentary for you, you're going to watch anyway. You're already in, you're already a poker fan. So right. I'm always trying to talk to the people who are like on the outskirts, who are probably tuning in for the first time, is really who I'm trying to speak to for the most part.
For the entertainment value, I think you and Hardigan, James Hardigan, and I'm going to say Lon McCarran, and like you guys are almost on the same level as far as entertainment and poker commentary.
Yeah, James and I have been very lucky that we figured out a pretty good sort of balance between what we do on the air. And so that's worked out really well. We've been recognized by a lot of people and people seem to get our shtick, and I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful that Poker Stars has let us do that too. You know, they don't really mess with us and tell us what to say or do look, we know at this point what not to do. But like, you know, they let us do our thing, which is really great.
It shows on the show. Like, I don't feel like you have any limitation. It's that dynamic between you and Hardigan is so funny too, because he's like the proper guy and you kind of like take it to the streets sometimes and you get out of line. It's a really nice dynamic.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it, Carl.
Oh, that's why you're here. I love it for sure.
I got a question. Just before we pass too far from like the Mad TV stuff, I always grew up loving Mad TV. I thought it was funnier than Saturday Night Live. What did you say your job was with them?
I started off as a production assistant, which is a guy that just gets coffee and makes copies and delivers scripts to people. And I did that for 1 year, and that one season, I should say. That was season 8 was my first season. It was the season right after like Will Sasso and Nicole Sullivan left. But it was the season when Key and Peele joined. So, you know, swings and roundabouts there. But so first year was production assistant. Second year was something I called myself the head of the research department, but it was only 2 people. And basically, let's say we were doing a Lord of the Rings sketch. Someone would have to make like 12 VHS copies of like the Lord of the Rings and hand them out to the cast and to the writers and to the set dressers. So that's what the research department did. Or if someone was like writing a Everybody Loves Raymond sketch, I would have to like tape a couple episodes of Raymond and give it to the writers. So that was a really cool job, but didn't pay very much. And then finally the third year, I moved up again, and I did that for like the next 4 or 5 years. I was a production coordinator, which is basically the boss of the production assistants. It's just a lot of logistics. It's booking lunches. It's making sure that the parking lot is clear. It's just like, it's picking up all the loose ends on a TV show. But it was a union job. And so I was like 22 or 23 years old, and I was making $1,200 a week in this job. And we're talking about, this is like 2004, 2005. So that's kind of why I didn't write either, because I was just like, I thought I was rich. I remember when I started making $1,200 a week, my friends were like, "You make what? You make how much money?" And I felt that way too. So like, I just didn't write. I was just like, I'm rich, bitch. Like just going to the bar like every single night. So that was like one of the worst things that could have happened to me. But yeah, those are the 3 jobs I had on Mad TV. Didn't really, I think I got one joke in one time that I happened to be walking by a writer's office. They asked me something. They used me in a sketch exactly one time. I had a really stupid work ethic back then that said that if you were not hired to be a writer, don't fuck with the writers. If you're not hired to be a cast member, don't fuck with the cast members. Do your job, keep your head down, do your job, go home. And I really regret that. I think that being someone who's like kind of annoying and like wants to like work their way into things is how most people get stuff that they want in life. But anyway, at the time I didn't believe in doing any of that. And so I never really did.
Cordy, I was going to ask if you ever had any influence on jokes. I'm sure you developed like some relationships with certain people and stuff like that. Sounds like you answered it though. And yeah, I understand like wanting to be tactful and respect your position and your distance from them. It sounds like you want to like mingle too hard and put too much pressure on them to like include you or anything like that.
Yeah, except that I saw other people do it and it worked for them. And so I kind of felt like an idiot for not doing it, but like wouldn't give up on this sort of code of ethics. And I would say that I wasn't doing enough in my personal time. So if you're going to go harass the writers and go, hey man, like I really want to be a writer. Like, what can you tell me about being a writer? Can I hang out with the writers? And they go, cool. Well, I'd love to read your stuff. What do you got? And then you go, well, I have nothing. That probably would have happened too. Because I wasn't working at it. You know, even if I had gotten that opportunity, it wouldn't have really benefited me at all. So, you know, you have to make sure that when you do that stuff that you're ready for the opportunity. Although what did happen is Bobby Lee forced me to do stand-up comedy for the first time. I'd mentioned to him in passing that I think I might want to be a comedian. And then he came in the next week and he was like, you're booked on the open mic at the Comedy Store on Sunday night. It's the hardest open mic to get into in the entire world. I had to pull a lot of strings to get you in this. You have no idea how many people would kill for this opportunity. You're getting up this Sunday or I'll never speak to you ever again. And yeah.
Did you know at the time I'm sorry, go ahead, Dana.
Oh, how'd it go?
It was terrible. It was really, really awful. It was horrible. And it was such a horrible, stressful experience. I don't think I tried it again for at least 5 years, but it was probably more like 7 or 8 years till I actually got on stage again.
It takes a lot of balls to do stand-up comedy, for sure. How was that first? You said it went terrible. How did you, do you have a record of it, by the way? Was it filmed or no?
It was not filmed. It was, like I said, this was back in the day before people were like filming everything all the time. Also, you're not allowed to film at the Comedy Store pretty much ever. But my best friend came with me and he said it was like childbirth, beautiful, but disgusting at the same time. So, you know, it was pretty bad, but being bad at comedy in the beginning, like no one's good their first time, or even if they are,
of course.
It's like your first hand of poker. It's like,
first session.
If you play a terrible hand of poker, play your first session of poker and you're awful at it, that has no bearing on the sort of poker player you'll become.
So was that motivating, or after that session you were like, fuck it, I'm never doing this again?
It was fuck it, I'm never going to do this again. And even when I started doing it again, I would dread it. I would hope that they wouldn't call my name. Like a lot of the open mics are like, you put your name in a bucket. To this day, if I go to a bucket mic and they don't call my name, I'm kind of relieved.
I mean, it's not easy for sure. I have a little excerpt here from your stand-up. Let's watch it real quick.
I have all of the drawbacks of being a celebrity, but none of the benefits. I will never get a nicer table in a restaurant. I'll never get moved to the front of the line of a club. But twice a year, a random fan will email me a picture of my house from Google Earth.
Did that actually happen?
It's the sorts of people that are poker fans. No offense to all 250 of you, but I'll never get noticed at the opera. Casino bathroom, line out the door. Michelin star restaurant, nobody's bothering me. The Nando's in Nottingham, I wish I had had a Sharpie. Somebody's tits were getting signed. A man's tits were getting signed.
Max Payne. So First of all, what's the Michelin restaurant? I didn't get that one.
Oh, it's just a very fancy restaurant. A Michelin star is like a rating that you get given if you're above hit some fucking fantastical quality.
Yeah.
By the way, you want to plug in your comedy tour?
Thank you. Yes, I'll do a short version now, and we'll do a longer one later. I'm doing a tour leaving next week. Me and a buddy from the UK are we're doing a docu-series road trip comedy tour where we got a lot going on. Yep, we're gonna go. We've got Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky. We've got a bunch of shows in Illinois, mostly Southern Illinois. We are going to hit Chicago, I think. Little Rock, Arkansas. We're going to do Austin. We're doing Cedar Park, Texas. We're doing Fort Worth, Texas. Flagstaff, New Mexico. Albuquerque. I know I said that was going to be the short version. I just want to name all those places because if you're around and you want to come to a show, get in touch. But yeah, basically we had an angel investor offered my buddy and I some money to shoot a special. And I wasn't that interested in doing a special because I don't think a nobody comic should be doing a special. No offense to my nobody comic friends who've done specials. It's just not for me. But what I said would be really cool is I would like to shoot a bunch of gigs and I'll put them on tape. And what I'd like to do is whenever I go see these whenever I do these comedy shows, like in the middle of nowhere, like in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, which I did last year, there's always like 2 poker fans in the audience and like, or maybe 4 or 6. I mean, I'm saying 2, but there's always someone and they're always like, and they're like, hey, will you come over? Let's come over and like have a home game. Let's have like a home game now. And I'm like, no, that's okay. I'm back to my room, my hotel now. But I'm like, if I did this road trip, this doc series, let's go. Let's fucking go. So if after one of these shows, people invite me to their home game, as long as I can bring the camera crew, let's do it. I'll come play in your home game. So that's why I think this might be fun for poker fans to come out because I'm really gonna, it's kind of gonna be like a bit of a love letter to poker fans around the country.
Man, last
I had a question.
Tampa, by the way, I missed the poker game. I know you guys went to the Hard Rock and played. I wish you had a stop in Tampa so we can set up a meetup game at the Hard Rock now that I have this podcast and we can plug it here. Maybe after your tour, maybe after the WSOP, we'll set something up. What do you think?
What I'm hoping is that this leads to people realizing that this is a good idea, that their local casino should have me and a funny comic come out and do like a little show and a little meetup game afterwards. So
I can make it happen. I can talk to Pablo and Yi here in Tampa and have a meetup game. We'll advertise it beforehand. You'll have a stand-up at Side Splitters, kind of like what happened last time, but the meetup game will be advertised and we'll have at least 30-40 people on standby to play that cash game. And we'll get permission from Pablo to film it. Kind of like they did Andrew Nemi and they did a meetup game here and they gave him permission to film because they're pretty strict here at the Hard Rock for filming.
Well, we had a full table that night. That was pretty fun.
Only one table went?
Yeah, and only you and I went to Side Splitters, but we did do our best getting the word out and stuff, but Yi was all about it. And
Yi was in charge? What Yi was?
That's really weird. Okay, actually I have a question about that because Yi gave me a free room and said, will you just do like a couple of social media posts? I did exactly what he asked. And then I wrote like a follow-up to be like, hey, just want to say thanks. And I really appreciated a good time. And then I never heard back from them. So I thought maybe they were mad. I thought maybe I didn't do enough or they weren't really happy with how things went because I just was like, oh, shoot, maybe they didn't feel like they got their money's worth out of me.
I don't think there's too much to expect from running one table. Like it's not like you're running 20 tables, and it's going to bring in so much rake. It's only one table. So I don't think he was mad at you. Yeah. But this new meetup game, we'll advertise it like 2 months ahead.
Sure, yeah.
We'll take up like maybe 5 to 10 tables. We'll talk.
Oh, cool. Yeah, man, sign me up for sure.
Yeah, it was totally on the fly, and I was not well known back then either. And anyway, it was nice. We had a full table, and I thought that was pretty fun.
I don't know why I missed it that day. I don't know what I was thinking.
I think you had a date, Carl.
Tasha was with me and my girlfriend. Yeah, Tasha was with me. She couldn't go. Because she works there. Tasha works there. She can't play there.
That's right.
And I don't want to leave her. Um,
What a
Joe,
sweet-
how did the name Stapes come about?
Stapes was Keegan Michael Key at Mad TV. Like people call me Stapes every once in a while here or there growing up, and I never really liked it very much. And then Keegan Michael Key used to walk into the office at Mad TV, and I was the first person that people would see. They'd always be like, Joey Stapes, what's going on? Joey Stapes, Joey Stapes, Joey Stapes, Joey Stapes. And I was like, well, if Keegan's gonna call me Stapes, then I guess I like it. And then it sort of
Stuck.
Yeah, it stuck from there. And I think probably like Seabach would call me Stapes, I guess. I don't know. It was always sort of my poker name. I don't know why. And I just once Keegan started doing it, I was totally fine with it. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea. Like other than him, he was the first guy I can remember doing it and not hating it. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about couch surfing before Stapes made it. What year do you think? What year was the year where you can say, "Okay, I made it"? In the poker world?
2047.
2047. So 20 years from now.
I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, I guess if we're going to consider as a group that I have made it, because I would think there's a lot of people out there that, if you see my Twitter replies, I'm a loser and a failure.
You know what? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the trolling, the online
which
trolling.
is fine, by the way. So I deserve a lot of what I get trolling. The funny one to me is just like when people say I'm a failed ex, where I'm just like, there's a million things you could hurt me over. I'm definitely anyway. So to answer your question, okay, made it. When did I make it?
So first,
it's weird because the big game was in 2009, and the big
Right.
game was a big hit. But then it was over very quickly. It was over before season 2 even premiered. And so that felt really like a false start for me.
You were making commentary in 2009 in the big game.
Yep.
I was thinking you came to the picture like 2014, 2015. 2009 big game was with Amanda, right? Was she the commentator?
Amanda was the on the floor hostess. I was the color commentator, and Chris Rose, who's wildly successful sports broadcaster now, even was then, to be honest, but has only gotten more successful and famous. Chris Rose was the play-by-play, and I was the color. Poker Stars took a shot on me doing the big game when I was like 27 or 28 years old.
At that point, how did they found you, and was that your first dabbling with poker?
It was because of that. So that first job I got at Card Player, I just parlayed that into like hosting a podcast and then doing some video pieces and then hosting another podcast and then hosting another podcast. And I was the people within the industry liked my shtick. Like Negranu was a big fan and would listen to all of my podcasts and watch all my videos. So in 2009, when Poker Stars was developing this show, he was like, there's this guy, Joe Stapleton, you got to get him. He's the only one for the job. I promise you, he's going to be a huge hit. He's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to poker commentary. And it wasn't just him, by the way. There's a lot of other people, guys named John Caldwell, Barry Greenstein, all kind of had my back. And we're saying the same things. And yeah, Stars took a shot on me. And I mean, Daniel texted me like after the first season, and he was like, I love being right. You know, because he felt like I had delivered on what he had promised them. And but then what happened was we were in the middle of recording season 2 and Black Friday happened. And so if season 2 had premiered on schedule and the show hadn't have ended, I would have called that as my like having made it was probably the big game. But once the big game got canceled, I had to prove myself all over again. Now, granted, I did get another shot pretty quickly. The European side of Poker Stars was like, hey, there's still TV in other countries. Do you want to come do the European poker tour? And that was like a weird awakening for me. I knew there was TV in other countries, but it never really dawned on me that I could go do TV in Europe. And so that's what I did in like 2012. I started, Black Friday was in 2011. So in 2012, I started flying back and forth to do EPT stuff. And even then I didn't feel like I made it because I was like freelancing and I was kind of bebopping all over the place. Like I really don't feel like I made it until 2020 when Poker Stars finally was like, we want you to be exclusive to us, and we're going to pay you a full-time salary instead of, you know, the freelance life is okay, but some months you work 30 days and you get a big fat check, and then the next month you work 4 and you don't, and it's really hard to manage you know, finances that way. It's hard to buy a house. It's hard to, you know, so I became a homeowner also in 2020. So I feel like I don't feel like I make it till 2020.
Wow.
You
Good
don't
for
have
you, Joe.
you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but what's the range of somebody like commentating on a poker show? How much they make roughly? Like, we have no clue, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
It just depends on it can depend on a lot of factors. I think that it ranges anywhere from $300 a day to probably around $2,500 or $3,000 a day. You know, it depends what you bring to the table, what your expertise is, how much the company has to spend, how much they care about having a quality person in the booth versus, I'll just say, an untested person. There's lots of good people who aren't making a lot of money. They just haven't really proven themselves yet. So, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. It goes into how exclusivity plays a big role in that, right? Like, if you're willing, if you don't want Jeff Platt to do any other broadcasts, you have, you know, if let's say that you're Poker Go, but you don't want him doing stuff for MGM, you got to pay him. You got to pay him enough to not do that other stuff. So, you know, those sorts of things all factor in, and, you know, how good of a fit they are for your brand, that factors in. How knowledgeable they are. Like, for example, like, I'm sure that Nick Schulman probably makes more per day than I do. But what he brings to the table is a lot. You know, he brings a wealth of poker knowledge. People adore him. So he probably does quite well. I don't know, by the way, anything, but I'm assuming that Nick's like not a cheap guy to get. And
no, you nailed it.
Worth it.
You nailed it. Like, when he's commentating, I know I'm gonna get like a quality commentary because he dives deep in the solver world.
Yeah.
He knows what he's talking about. The fun part is like you and somebody like him, you and Sam Grafton. That dynamic is good. You're bringing the comedy, some commentary about the play, and then like somebody like Sam Grafton is bringing the, like, what us wizard would want to hear. I was gonna show, because you mentioned your buddy Daniel Negreanu. I'm gonna show a little clip that went viral. I posted it on my Facebook, and like minutes later, it got like 3,000 views. He kind of went off on a fan. He was walking out of the, I think, event 2 or 3. He busted. He went deep in the 500 buy-in at the WSOP, and the fan ran up to him right when he fired the camera, because, you know, he has that little vlog and WSOP vlog, and he went off on him hard. Did you see that?
I did see that clip. Yes.
Let's play it here real quick. I hope Daniel doesn't get me on copyright.
Right now, when I start shooting, that's when you want the picture. You couldn't have done it before I started shooting. No, but I'm more pissed now that you interrupted the damn freaking thing. Like, what are you doing, bro? You wait till I start shooting?
Yeah, I waited.
Oh my
PlayStation
God.
Waiting.
Unbelievable, right? You'll never
All
learn
these.
All right, I'll be right back with you because this guy decided to interrupt. Okay. I'm steaming right now. I just busted.
I know, that's why I was trying to wait.
So you shouldn't fucking ask. That's the thing. You just leave me alone.
Smile.
Hey, I'm here all month, buddy. I'm here all month. You know?
I'll be your whip and post.
What do you think about that reaction, first of all? And have you ever had a experience like that?
I think that I would be, I mean, the only thing that I disagree with Daniel in this case is him fucking using that clip. Like,
you know what? And he premised it, first of all. He showed it in the beginning of his vlog. And then he said, like, hey, this is raw, my raw reaction post bust out. And we grinders understand, like a civilian would not get it. A poker grinder, when I bust out of a tournament, I don't want to talk to anyone, let alone somebody that's doing like small talk. like a fan like this. Now, how hard would I go on them is a different story. By the way, the guy in the clip looks so familiar. I don't know if he's from Tampa or not. He looks, Dana, do
He
you
says
recognize
something.
him?
He seems to have like an identity. He's like, I'm PlayStation Dad, right? Doesn't he say something like that?
I could not understand it. That's what he said, PlayStation Dad?
He points at his shirt, and I think he says PlayStation. So I think he's got some kind of like nickname or character. Is what I didn't notice until this viewing.
Okay, I have a few questions about this. First of all, let's say you're a fan and you walk up to a celebrity like this and they treat you like that. Are you still taking the picture? Or like you
Well,
being
there's a
PlayStation
lot
Dad?
of ifs there. I'll say this is that
Mhm.
I'm almost never going to go up to anyone and ask for a picture because I don't want exactly that reaction. So yeah. So first and foremost, I just would never ask anyone.
You
for
know
a picture.
what? I'm exactly like you. I've seen Ivy. I've seen Negrano. I've never been. Actually, the only fanboy I was to was you. Literally, the only one I have a picture with. I would never walk up to a celebrity and take a picture with.
Yeah. So, and again, there's like certain situations that like you could read the room, and like, let's say you were sitting next to a celebrity at the poker table all day, and then eventually you felt comfortable to be like, hey, do you think I could get a picture?
Well said.
Totally makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But to like accost someone, especially that guy seemed aware that Daniel had just busted a tournament. That guy's clearly a poker fan, so he can't be completely unaware of like there's good times and bad times to get people. And then yes, the fact that he was filming, I definitely would I would be a little cranky if someone messed up one of my vlogs, was messed up a take of mine.
Thing is, somebody mentioned online that Negrano actually specified that to the fans that he said, if you guys want to walk up to me and take a picture, please do it while I'm not filming. So if this guy did it on purpose, he's a genius to get his moment of fame because he knew he would get a rise out of Negrano if it's intentional. If it's not intentional, everything that happened raw. But if he had an intention to get a rise out of Negrano and get it on camera, but the thing is, how can he guarantee that it will get on the air?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think if that is his intention, that's really fucking shitty. To
course.
try to like rile somebody up to get their attention. I know you said we're going to touch on internet trolls eventually. Look, a lot of times people who do this stuff to like piss you off, they just want your attention. And what really sucks is a guy like me, a guy like Daniel, like you don't have to do that. I will give you my attention. I will give you my attention for a good way. You know, if you're just a decent person that regularly is around, like I pretty much know you by name. So, you know, that is shitty. I probably would have been a little salty too. I can tell when Daniel's legit mad, and he was legit mad.
Yeah.
In parts of that. So I don't know if I would have gone that hard. I would have faked it a little better, probably, even if I was that mad. I probably would have like Daniel goes back and forth there, right? Between like being mad and sort of joking and then being mad and sort of joking.
Yeah. He's being jovial, but at the same time, the body language, what he's saying.
I think he's hating the guy's answers too.
Yeah.
I just saw the video myself for the very first time. And Daniel continues to say that you wait until I start filming, which implies to me that the guy was on the sidelines waiting for Daniel to start filming.
He thought it was going to go over better than it did.
Yeah. And
maybe
so I think he's ignorantly aware of I'm going to get some camera time. I'm such and such PlayStation Dad. And so
maybe he waited for him to fire up the camera so he can be on camera. Because if he walks up to him, the camera's not on, he's not going to be on the vlog. He's like, let me wait till he put the camera on, and now I can be on the vlog. Yeah.
I don't think that's genius. I just think that's rude. If you're a real fan, you're going to respect the process of being, you know, if you've ever been eliminated in a big, huge tournament, you know better than to approach the player.
Yeah, I'm sure, Stapes, you've never probably experienced that. I mean, you don't play that many tournaments. Busting a tournament is not like losing in cash and walking away. Even that's tilting, but busting a tournament, especially deep on day 2, you just wanna.
It's actually kind of worse for me, I think, in some ways. Not that I'm playing for a living or that I'm playing at this sort of stakes Daniel is, but no, it's probably about the same for Daniel. I would say. I wouldn't say it's worse. But what happens is, like, when I'm playing in a poker tournament, often the focus is on me. and everyone there knows who I am, or like it makes its way around the table, and then everyone's like chatting with me. We're talking just like this, people asking questions, whatever. We're having a good time. And when I go broke, I have to pretend to not be mad in front of 8 people who are all watching me very closely, who are all waiting to see what I will say or do. You know, and then I'm expected to graciously shake everyone's hand who wants to be handshake. It was nice playing. It was great playing with you guys. When a lot of the times I'm like really pissed off, you know, and just sort of, and then people do ask me for photos before. They're like, I'm so sorry, but before you go, can I get a photo? But what I've come to it completely is fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not my favorite, right? It's like, of course I'm having human emotion about it, but it's fine because that's why I'm there.
Mm-hmm. I
am there. Now, Daniel's different, right? Daniel is playing poker for a living, and the fans are a lot of the reason why he's there, but not 100%. He's still playing poker. Me, I'm 100% there as fan service. There's no reason for me to be there otherwise. So if people want to get a picture of me right when I go broke, no big deal. As long as they don't say something to needle me. Sometimes people want to like get a jab in or whatever, and that's kind of annoying. But other than that, nah, man, I don't. That's why I'm there. That's the exact reason I'm there. It's all good.
Let's talk about both sides of the spectrum.
Oh, sorry, Dana. What do you got, Dana? What do you got?
Go ahead,
Dana.
I
was going to say, now, didn't you just win a big tournament like in the last year?
I didn't win. I finished 4th, though, for like 8K, which is pretty good for a 300 euro buy-in. Yeah, I am part of my responsibility as a star is to play poker a little bit more often than I have been. So you'll see me popping up in things here and there. I'm just so busy. Otherwise, I don't really get to play. You know, I can't play the NAPT because I'm working every day the NAPT. So, yeah. But hopefully you guys will see me playing a little bit more. Yeah.
Carl, you mind if I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead.
So this is a small pivot, but it's related to what we just talked about. What are your thoughts on like emotion in poker? Because it feels like back in the day, it was more emotional. Thinking about like Matt Affleck when he gets eliminated. I think it maybe like a Caribbean tournament, like Maurice Hawkins. Even on a recent tournament, was it Afriat at the final table? Kind of had his thing.
Yeah.
It feels like more sterile than it used to be in terms of like that emotional side. Do you like that it's not a bunch of drama, or do you think it kind of would be better if there was a little bit more happening on that end?
Well, I think we have to look at the root causes of that. And I think one of them is the fact that players are much more logical these days, and they're much more, you know, you pray at the altar of the solver, you told me earlier. And I think that the more you do that, the less emotional you are for the most part. You remove the emotion from the game. You know, it's odds and statistics, and I made the right decision and it didn't work out this time, and on to the next one. So I think that as poker players have gotten better overall, their emotions are more kept in check. I think also it's minus EV to have emotions at the poker table for the most part. I think that, you know, you're losing money in the long run, even by having a personality. The more robotic you keep yourself at the table, like I think you're probably your expected value is gonna go up, unless you're specifically the sort of player that unnerves your opponents and does dynamite reads. You're probably better off just doing this all the time and not reacting at all. So I think for those two reasons, it's hard to make those demands. On the flip side, one thing that kind of makes me sad is that when people do show emotion, we live in a society now that you have to have a take on everything, and you have to publish a blog article, and everyone has to like, oh, something happened. This person got emotion at a poker table. Now all of a sudden there's all these articles and think pieces. And was this too much? Was this too little? Is this not enough? And the fact that like, we can't just let these things live and like not have to analyze them to death and pick them to death, I think makes it even less incentive for people to do stuff. It makes it seem like emotion's bad. Almost any time I see someone, there's like a clip of emotion going around, I'm like, oh, pretty cool. This person had a feeling about this. Maybe I wouldn't have reacted that way. Does that mean I think this is completely out of line? No. Oh, maybe I do think this is a little out of line. And guess what I'm going to do? Move on. Not have to comment on it and not have to make a big thing out of it. Like, oh, that's an interesting thing that happened. So I think that the fact that like everything becomes a thing now is also just kind of sad. We can't just like see something and move on, especially when it's emotion. Is it really that big of a deal that's X, Y, or Z happened that this person fist bumped? Do we have to have a 4,000 comment thread about it? I don't know. It just seems like another deterrent for showing emotion.
Gotcha.
Talking about emotion, how about that guy that picked $1 million in the mystery bounty and he barely reacted, and all the internet went nuts? He literally just had it like cracked this small smile, and some people were saying they were showing the difference between him and a lady that picked a 50K. She was screaming.
Yeah.
Let me show you the clip real quick.
Oh, he's excited.
He's fine. Yeah, I don't like. Look, the screenshot that everyone takes of him not reacting at all doesn't look good. But right after he smiles, I don't know. This is the kind of thing like, would I say, oh, check out this guy's understated reaction? Absolutely.
Even Jeff Platt did a shrug like, what just happened?
Yeah, and I think that that's Jeff's job in the moment, right? It's Jeff's job to comment on it and to make it interesting. And I just think that both, like, I know he's not getting a lot of hate.
Look at this. I mean, I think
He's so excited.
Two factors play here.
Yeah.
First of all, it takes a minute to hit that you just won $1 million. So the reaction sometimes might not be in the moment. Second, a lot of people are saying maybe I made a comment. I'm like, maybe he sold like 120% of himself. So now he has to come up with 200K. So who knows what's going on? But yeah, I'll show you the in retrospect how the girl reacted. I'll find the clip real quick.
Or he was just in shock and calculating how much taxes he's going to have to pay.
Or I would just say this, like, it's an interesting clip to watch, right? No problem. I have no problem people sharing the clip. It's just like, why police someone's emotions? Like, who cares?
Right.
Who fucking cares that he just smiled?
Society wants you to act in a certain way, put you in a box if you do something. Yeah.
Like, remember that guy that went bananas and everyone acted like he was crazy, or it was like or it was set up, or it was fake, or whatever. Like,
I saw the clip.
You can't win.
Yeah, it's right here. Actually, it's all over on Poker News. Right here.
That clip fucking brought me so much joy.
He was screaming when he was walking to pick the bounty right here.
Oh my god! Dude, I fucking did it, dude! Fuck out here.
He's celebrating. He hasn't even picked anything yet.
This is for Mom. This is for Mom.
I don't think I've seen this one. I was talking about a different one.
Maybe it's $1 million.
Okay, I think at this point he's excited because there's only like a couple of big ones left. This is probably towards the end. So he's kind of like anticipating it's going to be a big one.
Okay.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
I love it.
You squeeze it. Which one is it? That's 250,000. Right here. Bus boys. Let's go. Let's go. Now I take the tournament down too. Let's go.
Okay.
He's amped up on some major Adderall or something.
Were people critical of that?
I don't think so.
No,
I wouldn't go right for drugs. I don't think he's on drugs. I think that's his personality.
Probably.
And that is what draws people to poker, and that's what poker dreams are made of.
We're just talking shit here, Dana. Yeah.
Internalized and externalized excitement. Anyway, both of those videos are what people like me
both of them made me smile.
Are dreaming of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the understated smile. That guy is like, when it finally starts to dawn and he can't hold it back anymore. That made me smile. I don't know. It's just, we're all incentivized to comment on stuff though, right? To weigh in, to get, so when you have to comment on something, you have to have an opinion on it. I don't have an opinion on most things. I'm like, yeah, seems fine. It's okay.
I'm guilty of that.
I agree 100%.
I have fallen in the troll trap.
Yeah, of course we all do. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. No, absolutely. I mean, we've all, I know that for a fact, Dana and Carl, we've had disagreements online. So, and those things, so I'm just as guilty of it as anyone else. I'm just easily able to not have an opinion on stuff in poker.
Yeah, you don't take hard lines on things, basically.
Not really in poker, no, because mostly because I'm just like, who I don't know. What's my opinion, man?
Yeah, you just move on. You just move on with your day. It's not the end of the world. Anything I was gonna say about dealing with fans, as far as like when you have a positive experience with a fan, and let's talk about the negative. When you're approached by somebody and they say like you suck or something, has that ever happened?
There's not a lot of people that are straight up rude to me in that way in real life, but there are people that are like really too familiar with me. If they're drunk, especially, people will like put me in a one of those like headlock things, or
that's the worst.
I had a guy in Dublin follow me into the bathroom, and I was like, you saw that in my act or whatever. Like he really did follow me into the bathroom, and I was like, hey man, I'm just trying to take a piss. I'll happily do a photo when I'm out. And then he like reached down my shirt and like pulled my chain out like while I was peeing. And then there's a lot of like, if I show like any sort of like just, hey, like just give me some space to like, oh, you're I thought you're a comedian, like you can't take a joke. Like there's a lot of that happens. And so I mean, I wouldn't trade it. Like I'm very happy to interact with most fans. It's just that every once in a while, because of like how I put myself out there too, people feel like they can take shots at me right away. And for the most part, it doesn't bother me. It just would be like a little grating if I'm like not having the best day already and some stranger wants to endear themselves to me by like making fun of me, or especially saying that I'm not funny in some way, is like the worst possible way to like get in my good graces. I'll be like, it's really nice meeting you, and I'll just walk away.
How about hecklers when you're doing stand-up comedy? Because these days you can't say, and we know comedy is all about the shock value lately. So how do you deal with hecklers? Because everything is offensive these days. Like some of the comedians, they go on college campuses and stuff, they get kicked out. I have a video of an Indian comedian, I forgot his name, literally got kicked out. And he didn't even say anything raunchy or anything. It was something about race, I think. He got kicked out. He had a gig at the campus.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that stuff happening. First of all, I don't think it's happening nearly as much as it seems. I think because we live in a society where everything is videotaped, it's probably happening. There's probably some increase in it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I just don't think it's just, and you know, there's entirely possible. Those colleges a lot of the time make you agree to what your material is going to be before you do it. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if that guy just was straight up ignoring that agreement. Like I think most colleges at this point ask you at least to run it past them. So there's like a lot of things about those sorts of videos that I think that are like sensationalized and are happening, but it's not as big a problem as people think it is. I see a lot of comedy. I see a lot of comedians. The number one joke is if you're going to be offensive, like anything that would quote unquote offensive, just be funny. You know, there's a lot of things that are out there that shock value is not necessarily funny. And so someone could, you know, do a joke about a particular very sensitive topic. And I would like not laugh and be like kind of angry with them. And then if they do a much better joke about the same topic, I'm like, oh, it's pretty funny. But I'm also not the sort of person that's going to complain again if I see a comedian that I find really offensive, which I do sometimes. I don't say shit. I just like don't go to their show next time.
Yeah, you'll never heckle them on stage. I have a clip of somebody being heckled on stage. Have you ever been heckled on stage?
Yeah, so I've been heckled quite a bit, but never for being well, I shouldn't say never. I definitely have in my early days didn't really understand what the lines were and said some kind of offensive shit and got heckled for that. But you know, I'm talking about my first year in comedy. I'm talking about like 2013. My first year I really started doing it. But yes, hecklers in general, to go back to what we're talking about with fans being over familiar, most of the time a heckler is someone who's trying to help, is someone who thinks that their contribution is going to make the show better.
In their mind.
In their mind, yes. And so a lot of times heckling is just someone like repeating your joke or saying they agree with it. It sounds like a heckle. It's still disturbing the show. So technically it is a heckle, but they're sometimes just such big fans that they want your attention. Sometimes they'll insult you thinking like, oh, when he puts me down, this will be hilarious. This will be so funny. And in both those cases, they think they're helping, which is what they don't realize is that it's not about them. There are people that have a hard time realizing that the show is not about them. And look, it's a difficult needle to thread these days with the attention spans of people, where you're used to watching things on your phone that you can reply to and respond to, and everyone really cares about what your take is. You can stitch it or do a duo or whatever, instantly commenting on something. And also, like we say, come to comedy, don't talk, but don't be quiet. Don't say anything. You make noise, but only the right kind of noise. And so I think people have a hard time following that sometimes.
So, Joe, when you performed at Side Splitters, it was the only comedy show I've ever been to before and since. And one of the fellas that performed, I can't remember, I think he performed after. And I accidentally hissed.
Okay,
like I was letting air out, and he like looked directly in my general direction, and to avoid getting like, slammed live, I didn't fess up. But after the show, I walked up to him and I said, dude, I accidentally hissed. I'm so sorry. And like, I think I gave him a hug. But I also accidentally cackled when you were up there. Like super, super loud. And you just ran with it. It was amazing. But when it was just stone cold dead silent on both occasions. And when that happens, you just run with it, right?
Yeah, so it depends. So there
Is that
are
a heckle?
I don't remember it happening, so probably I wouldn't consider it a heckle. No, usually you don't get mad at someone who's like laughing too loud unless it's like really disturbing the show. And so some comedians thrive. So that guy heard one hiss and was like, whoosh, where's that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
I would need to hear a hiss like 4 or 5 times before I drew attention to it, because I know that shit happens. I know that people slip up. I'm not the sort of comedian that like is dying for those moments to happen. And for me, the only time I address it is when the audience eventually also hears it and like starts to lose respect for you because you're not doing anything about this disturbing thing that's happening. A single hiss, a single cackle, not really something I'm going to like put the brakes on for, because it's not my style of comedy. I don't get any joy out of like roasting somebody who doesn't deserve it, because I get a little too mad. If the comedian's too mad about it, it's not that funny.
Yeah, the good ones that deal with hecklers, they'll never let it get personal. And they actually, like the video we're gonna watch, the guy just goes along with it, which makes the heckler looks bad. When we talk about the hecklers I'm talking about, the ones that go full blown, they literally interrupt your show and they start saying their mind. Let's watch this clip real quick.
Joe, I got a question. How much are you doing stand-up in between, like the poker commentary and stuff like that? Is it pretty much as possible, or is it just whenever you feel like it? Or
I mean, man, I feel so bad. I haven't done stand-up in months. I've been so busy with poker stuff. It's like we're into the month of June right now. I think I might have been home 40 days total this year.
Wow.
And so just on those days, like I like my life and want to just enjoy my life. Those 4 days I'm home in between trips, those 12 days I'm home in between trips. So I haven't been doing a ton of stand up. Partially why I'm doing this tour is it's going to be like 15 or 16 shows in 23 days. And it'll be like boot camp for me. Like it's really hard to grow and like get better as a comic if you're not doing it regularly. So to answer your question, it's been really tough, and I don't know how many more years I could do it like this. I might eventually just have to go. I'm not a stand-up anymore. I just don't have the time for it, unfortunately. And to trade off, like, I have a very good career. I have a sort of career that most stand-up comedians dream of. So it's not really like I would quit and then like try to make it as a stand-up. It's really, I started at the end.
Gotcha.
What generates more money, Joe? Stand-up, like tours like that, or the commentary for EPT?
So I will just say that stand-up nets me about negative $10,000 or $15,000 a year. So I'll let you decide which one brings in more money. You guys remember the game, the Oregon Trail? Do you remember that game?
Sounds familiar, but no, I don't know what
It's
is.
a game, like a text-based game from the Apple, like in the 80s, from Apple in the 80s. And like you would take like a cross-country adventure in the Old West. Like you'd put a wagon together and try to make it from, I think it's New York City to Oregon. And you would have to cross rivers, and your kids would get sick and die. But at the beginning of the game, they would make you choose your profession. And if you chose the banker, you would start with the most money. And if you chose like the farmer, you would start with a medium amount of money. And then if you chose like a hunter, you would start with almost no money. And my stand-up comedy journey is like basically the banker. I can just afford to like go to Wisconsin and get paid $200 for the show, and the weekend cost me $600. So like stand-up's like a pretty expensive hobby for me. That I'm confident in my abilities to do, but I just can't make a living at it because I don't have the time. I'm free one weekend every 2 months. So I just sort of Oregon Trail it.
Well,
I looked it up actually.
Aren't you kind of a stand-up comedian sitting in a booth?
Yes, absolutely. No,
yeah. And you're constantly working on material, I'm assuming.
Yeah. No, I don't feel like a fraud as a comedian. Like I definitely like make people laugh on television. And that's okay with me. It's just that as far as like I don't think at my current rate of employment, I would ever be able to make it as a stand-up comic, because what you do is you tour.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first thing you do is you start touring the country. And there's just no possible way I could ever tour without severely reducing what I do in the poker world. And I'm not ready to do that.
My next question is name 3 comedians that you look up to, because I feel like most comedians coming up, they try to imitate somebody, and then they
I know one of those.
But before that, let's watch this heckling clip real quick.
I give credit where credit is due. I'm probably the most pro anti-Trump comic out there.
You're not.
Shut the f***
As a white guy trying to talk to black people.
I'm not.
Bitch, no, you're not.
Yes, I wasn't.
No, you were.
You just tuned in.
Trying to. You were trying to.
For what? What are you upset about? It's not me.
No, and shut up. Any black person ever tried to laugh at his fucking jokes? No.
Stop having fun, motherfucker.
Go ahead, yeah. Stop having fun.
Yeah, no, that's what happens.
No, you're white, trying to like talk about and you.
My probation officer is here now. I don't know who the f mad at, but it's not me.
No, a white person trying to make fun of black people.
See, now you're crying, and I was just trying to make you laugh.
No, don't do that.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm gonna make fun. I was trying to be empathetic.
It wasn't funny.
It was not.
No. I don't care. You trying to like laugh at that shit.
How dare I at a comedy clip?
He's good.
Yeah, I mean, he handled that fairly well. It's a pretty uncomfortable situation. It's an uncomfortable thing to be accused of. It's uncomfortable when someone is genuinely having a bad time at your show. You know, in some of those cases, you're trying to stand up for yourself, but you're also just trying to save everyone else's good time. It's pretty awkward.
Some comedians go hard on the hecklers. He was actually nice about it.
Yeah, and so it's like this is a huge issue in comedy right now is these heckler videos, because they do quite well. People so you might have someone like Dana who's only been to one comedy show in their life, and then for the last 10 years has only watched stuff on TikTok and Instagram, and they see all these clips of comedians talking to hecklers, and people that go to the show, they go, are we supposed to do that? Is that what stand-up comedy is? Because that's all I see. Now, Dana's a grown woman, but imagine you're like 14, 15 years old, and then you turn 18 and you go to your first comedy show. You don't know that's not what comedy is. Comedy's people yelling stuff at the audience and comedians destroying them. That's what comedy's supposed to be. So these clips are like really hurting the whole zeitgeist of comedy, in that both comedians and audience want them to happen. And I think that we should not want these moments to happen.
100%. This is the guy that got kicked off in Colombia off stage. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Let me share this screen.
Going off of what?
I would bet, now that I know it's Colombia, I would bet money that he signed an agreement over what sort of
he did. He talks
Content.
about it. He talks about it on the Joe Rogan, by the way.
I was invited by Columbia University Asian American Alliance to perform at the annual Culture Shock Festival. Now, this is Asian, like my kind of Asian, but also kind you guys are picturing. And they're like, hey, Nimesh, we're big fans of your work. You were the first Indian to ever write on SNL. We want you to come do our show. And I was the first Indian to ever write on SNL. Hopefully not the last, but I don't, thank you, but I don't want to get it twisted. I'm not like the Jackie Robinson of Indian writers. You know, I didn't barge into Lauren Michaels' office like, hey, fuck Taco Tuesday. We're doing Tandoori Thursday from here. 17 minutes into the set, I tell that joke, and it bombs. It's like dead silence. You can hear people shitting in the bathroom. That's how quiet. And then they cut my mic, and I leave the stage. And side stage is like a 5'5" Asian woman waiting for me. She goes, I have to escort you out because of security risks. I'm like, I'm not going to fight a bunch of breakdancers. And I was invited by Columbia.
All right, so here's my thing. On the surface, like the way you told that story, it sounds pretty bad. Hearing him tell it, he took a risk. It didn't pay off. Like I don't think it's like really like like you can't say anything anymore. Like he was in front of he was like the Indian Student Society invited him to come, and he starts doing like stereotype Indian jokes. I don't think it's that out of line for them to be like, hey, oh, whoa. There's one thing. We're a club that represents one thing. Hey, you're not for us. Thanks for coming. Like, I just don't think that's that big of a deal. Like he took a risk. It didn't pay off. He still has a job. He still has a career. He didn't get canceled. He just got taken off that one particular stage. It doesn't really seem that bad to me.
No, it's not that bad. No, it was just
and
that
plus,
one.
I don't think he should be like crucified or canceled for telling that joke either. He just told it in front of the wrong crowd. That happens sometimes.
That's exactly what happened. That's it. He told it in front of the wrong crowd. Going back to favorite 3 comedians in your opinion.
Well, ones that I look up to is the way you originally worded it, and that's one I'd rather do. So Greg Warren is a guy out of St. Louis. And he's probably the best comedian you've never heard of. He is so fucking funny and such a great writer, and has been very kind to me, and has done me big favors. And the one I appreciate most of those is just talking comedy with me and writing with me. And you know, he's had me stay at his home, and he's gotten me gigs. But the thing I really love most is having this guy who's a brilliant comedy writer and just having his time and attention every once in a while to kick some ideas around. That's really fun. Mike Birbiglia is another comedian I look up to very much. He is just a master storyteller and has figured out his thing and cranks out a genius level show like once every year and a half, which is pretty impressive. So he's someone I certainly admire. And Michael Ian Black is a comedian that I've become friends with over the last couple of years, and I really admire him. I think that he is one of the few people that I have met some of my heroes, and they haven't always lived up to being the person that I thought they were. But Michael is a guy who absolutely lives up to the image that I had of him, and that's been really cool getting to know him also.
Love
Did you?
him.
Yeah. I
Love
actually
him.
pulled up a clip from the first guy you named, Greg. If you want.
Sure.
I love stand-up. I've never heard of Greg Warren, so I can't. I'm
Me
gonna.
neither. Me neither. This is
figure him out.
7 swear words and
Sorry.
I was like, that is going to be a sturdy building. You ever walk by a construction site and hear somebody say, darn it, or shoot, that thing's coming down.
He's actually right.
I walk by.
So he doesn't cuss. He's a totally clean comic. Doesn't get political. It just is funny. Just writes really brilliant jokes. If there's one there, scroll down a little bit.
I walked by a construction site the other day.
Let's scroll down a little bit, and then if there's one where he talks about, wait, what's that? A message to the corporations?
Middle one.
The one on the right, I think. Let's try this one.
insurance company.
Yeah,
First of all, they say they're going to send you an insurance card. Stop calling it a card. It's a piece of paper. Okay, I want a card. $3,500 I gave you guys last year. You can afford to send me a card. At least laminate the card. The library laminates their cards. I don't think the whole library system made $3,500 last year. They don't send you a card. They send you a piece of paper, and it's got a dotted line on it with a picture of scissors. No.
Yeah, he's right.
No, you cut it. I'm not cutting it. Not for $3,500. You can hire a couple of cutters up there for that kind of money. And if I do cut it, I'm not cutting on that stupid line. I'll cut whatever shape happens to come out. The cop's going to be like, can I see your insurance? Swan? Is that a swan? Is that what that is, sir? Did you make a swan, son?
I love him.
What did you think about the Nikki Glazer on the roast of Tom Brady?
What I saw of it seemed very good. Seemed very funny. I'm anti-roast in general. I like him on that scale. I'm not a big roast fan because I think that, hear me out here. I think that people use it as an excuse to like make jokes they wouldn't otherwise make, whether they're racist, sexist, or whatever. And I'm not saying I have a problem with those jokes. I'm just saying be brave enough to do them when you're not roasting someone.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because you've lived in other countries. I feel like this is only an American thing where you get somebody on stage and basically drill them. And some of them get mean. Like you have any shortcoming in your life, they're going to talk about it the whole set.
Yeah, so I mean, they do. I have seen them in England. They're not quite as popular there as they are here. But yeah, I think that typically it's a comedian on comedian thing. So they want it to be as mean as possible for the most part. I've heard very few instances of a comedian in a roast battle actually being mad about a joke. So in that respect, I like them. I think it teaches people sort of, hey, you can not be mad about a joke. You can be like, that's racist. That's sexist. And you can say both those things and go, but I'm not going to yell at you about it. And just moving on. But to that same point, I think that if you're the sort of comedian that will only make those sorts of jokes during a roast battle, like what's the difference? Like say it another time.
Right.
You believe in that style of joke enough to use it in your regular set. Not saying you have to do it all the time, but if that's the only time you ever do it, I'm like, it's like I don't know. My parents always told us that like when you were a kid, so we weren't allowed to swear, but if we said F this, my parents would be like, that's the exact same thing as swearing. And so we would get in trouble for that too. And that's kind of how I feel about roast battle. It's like, why is it cool during roast battle? Like, should just be fine all the time.
Low-hanging fruit of the comedy world. Low-hanging fruit.
Joe, when you write comedy now, like it's so hard to come up with new material because it's almost like everything has been addressed. Race has been addressed. I mean, every topic has been addressed. How do you try not to copy somebody else? Because you know what happened with Mancia.
Sure.
When Joe Rogan got on stage and he grilled him in front of everybody live, he's stealing other like kind of like smaller comedians, if I can use that word, like and he denied it, and it destroyed a lot of people don't know, it destroyed his career. Like he didn't come up with anything else, and he talked about how he got in depression and he was almost suicidal. I think he took it too far. Like he could have taken this, turned it around, and just like continued with his career, but it let it affect him so much. But that's another topic of discussion. So
in his case, I think that maybe he did take it a little too hard. I think it would have been really hard for him to come back from it. From comedians don't forgive that sort of thing. I think the community may never have forgiven him ever again. Not sure, but I do think that was. But yes, obviously, look, when someone does something wrong, you don't want them to like want to kill themselves. You want them to face some sort of repercussions. You just don't want it to. Of course, no one wants it to go that far. As far as all topics having been covered, it can be a little tough, especially now with you're not just competing with other comics, but you're competing with someone who like a vlogger. You're competing with a TikTok maker. You're competing with someone who makes memes. You know, like Jesus was the original CrossFit is like a joke that I wrote one time, right? And then I was like, oh, let me see if this exists. And you Google it, and there's 10,000 memes already doing that joke. Some of them better.
How did it do? How did it do live? Did it bomb or people?
No, it was
laughed at it?
fine. It was at the end of something. It wasn't like a whole bit. It was just like at the end of. I do this one bit about how Saint Joseph is my favorite saint because he was Jesus' stepdad, and it's like hard enough being a stepdad, but imagine your stepson's real dad is God. And so the end of it is just like, oh, you know what? I bet Joseph was really good at building crosses. And then I just use the original CrossFit. It's a throwaway joke. It's not like anything, but I was like, oh yeah, of course. This is like a joke that's been heard a million times. So the internet hurts a little bit, but I think what it does is like, I still like the challenge of it, of how can I say this different? How can I say this funnier? How can I say this? What is you, all you can really bring is your own personal perspective to it. So yeah, it can be a little tough. It can be especially disappointing when you think you've come up with a great premise and you just Google it and you see that it's been done 5,000 times before. And you're like, okay, moving on from that. I accidentally ripped off Seinfeld once and Norm had to tell me about it. Norm was like, he's like, that one joke you did. He's like, I got some bad news for you. I'm like, what?
It's been done before.
And then he brought up the Seinfeld clip. And not only had it been done, but I think I did subliminally just do almost word for word the Seinfeld bit. And I was like, sorry. And he was like, don't worry about it. It happens all the time. Like if someone brings it to
I don't think it counts as stealing if you like genuinely don't know that somebody else did it. But Carlos
totally.
Mencia
No,
was doing
and the
it
thing is, I
knowingly.
had definitely seen that bit before, but it's like a 20-year-old bit. And I'm glad that he pointed it out to me. And the thing is, it was new. It's not something that had been in my act for a long time. It's something I was just trying out. It's a Halloween bit. And he's like, no. He's like, look, that's a Seinfeld bit. And I was like, shit. And that's fine. Like, I don't feel particularly bad about that. Or in fact, I feel lucky that it got caught by him so early on and not by someone who like put it online. I'd have been fucking mortified. So yeah. But yeah, so writing can be difficult. Also, is writing for stuff that's relatable to everybody. We all sort of live in a bubble more than ever, from the sort of things that I could talk about. Like, for example, like, I don't think me doing material about riding in an Uber is super relatable when I'm doing like a place in Wisconsin where like nobody takes Ubers. There's like 2 guys that drive Uber in the whole town. Now they know what it is. It's not like it's dumb to them, but my experience of like, boy, isn't it crazy when you have the same Uber driver like 4 times in a week in Los Angeles? It's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So, you think about that. You think about like, not everyone is online as we are.
Yeah.
So if I go in with like a bunch of Elon Musk material, are they going to get it if they don't live online the way most of us do? You get that, I know that Carl and Dana are online probably as much as I am. And so you're aware of the zeitgeist. You're aware of what the current feeling is about the president or Elon Musk or the girl that went viral crying while she was making her own birthday cake. And if you don't live online, you might not get those points of reference. So that's another thing I struggle with too. Like if I do bits about oat milk lattes, I know they have them in every town, but do people actually drink that shit? Probably not.
Right. Tell us that joke on EPTs. I mean, you say it so many times, but this is one, and I want you to see if you can guess what episode it's from. Like being based versus being red-pilled, one of the two has a slight mathematical advantage. Do you know what episode you said that in?
No, because I would have used it on live streams also, and it all gets confusing to me. I guess. No, I don't know. It was probably for a PCA show, something at the PCA, I would guess.
It was 2024 EPT Monte Carlo.
Monte Carlo. I like just did it like a couple of weeks ago.
You just did it? Yeah. I just watched it yesterday.
Okay, yeah, no, I've said it multiple times. That's why I didn't know which thing you were watching.
Where did this thing from the slight mathematical advantage? Because you use that, you have like maybe 20 or 30 puns of that same style. Where did that come from?
It's probably a couple hundred if you go all the way back to when I first started doing it. But it was because, so again, to go back to my point that like poker can be kind of boring, there becomes a certain point where you can only like see ace king versus queens or 2 jacks versus 10s. It's a tournament, right? We're doing tournaments. We're going to see a ton of freaking flips. And so how do I make this pretty mundane situation the least bit interesting for people that have been around for a long time. And I think that if you know that no matter what happens in this hand, you know that either ace, king, or queens is going to win. Hey, but we don't know what gag Stapes is going to do here. Oh, here's a little something that just gives me a little extra shot of serotonin while this hand is happening. Because if you're not invested in either of these two players, it's like, all right, let's go, move on, next hand. So I'm just trying to find a way to make, what becomes a very standard situation, sometimes different.
Yeah. I was going to say earlier, you had mentioned about commentating and using your comedy on EPT. And that's actually, I'm like living proof of an engaged viewer. And I just kept coming back for more because of you and James and your dichotomy and your one-liners. And at the same time, I was absorbing all to do about poker and playing tournaments and even, locales and that kind of thing. I really like your bits when you would do skit comedy on the streets. I really wish you guys would bring that back.
Oh, well said. Yeah. And I know you guys had some debates about James Bond. Like, what's your favorite James Bond movies too?
So the skits, I think that they've been talked about publicly. So I can say we did shoot a bunch of skits at PCA in 2023.
Oh, good.
For some reason, they didn't make it into the PCA TV shows. I think that I can't say exact. I'll say this: the versions I saw, I didn't love, so we didn't really have time to go back and try to re-edit them. So they did not make it in the TV show. Do I know if they'll make it to see the light of day ever? I'm not sure. There's such a backlog of actual poker that it's hard to justify the sort of, the manpower that it would take to get them in. And now at this point, where would they go since those PCA shows have already happened? So I'm not sure that we'll ever get to see them. We all wanted to bring them back. We're all excited to bring them back. There was a couple that I was very proud of writing, but I will say they're a challenge, okay? Because what'll happen is they'll go, okay, Stapes, we're going to the Bahamas. We're going to what is a place called Baha Mar, and we're going to shoot 30 sketches, 30 of the skits over 3 days. 30 is probably too many. We're just shoot 15 of them over 3 days. So we need you to write 20 skits, 20 funny skits that are under a minute, that don't use any other actors really, that limited props, limited content, as far as comedy is concerned. It's got to be squeaky clean. And we need about 20 of them, and they all have to take place in Baha Mar. And, we can't really, there's only certain places we can shoot. So it's a challenge. I wrote 3 skits that took place during us having an art lesson, which I was really proud of in the moment. I thought they were going to be really funny. Haven't seen them yet, but I love doing them. I love that we got the chance to do stuff like that. But they are tough.
Let's talk about the famous. Sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
I was going to say, have you, maybe this is too complex or difficult, but have you tried to incorporate maybe getting some poker players that are well known involved in that? Because I think that's kind of entertaining for the audience, right? Or is that just too much to
It's
deal with?
absolutely entertaining for the audience, and if we could do big name cameos, that would be great. Unfortunately, we don't have the flexibility that it takes to have poker players do this kind of stuff. Poker players are very reluctant to commit to, hey, I'll be available at this time. We need someone who's available, the whole day, or takes 3 hours to shoot one skit. So every poker player is like, yeah, I'd love to do it if I'm not in the tournament. Oh yeah, totally. If I'm out. And so booking them for stuff like that becomes really difficult. But yes, I would love to have Eric Seidel be in one of our skits, or to have Phil Hellmuth be in one of our skits. It would be great. There are a lot of moving pieces to them, and it's hard to get poker players to commit. And especially because I would have to almost write it around a specific person. And so sometimes we're there before the tournament even starts. That's our 3 days to shoot. There are no poker players there yet. So, but that's a great idea. And if we can make that work, I will probably, that's certainly something maybe we can endeavor for in the future.
I think too, to add on to what we were talking about earlier, is we don't get to see the human side of a lot of these players. So getting to see skits with them almost might help introduce that. And stimulate some of that, like that absence that I feel like there is.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it could humanize folks a little bit more. Sure.
Well, for the NAPT, just give Nikki and Caitlin a call, and I'm sure they'll be there with bells on.
I think Nikki just signed with Ignition, so that would probably rule her out from doing most stuff.
Nikki
for
was
us,
really
unfortunately.
funny on the Ace Holes show, by the way. She's naturally funny.
Well, they're both highly trained comedians.
Nikki and Caitlin are a breath of fresh air, two of the most talented folks in the industry right now. Awesome having them around doing their thing. Ace Holes is very funny. Obviously, we liked Nikki enough to choose her for the big game, Loose Cannon. So you know, they're both excellent. Yes, and I think they're genuinely talented people.
Mm-hmm.
Agree. Let's watch the famous jingle here from you guys.
You know what they say, Lee? Everybody loves a chop pot.
Who started that?
That was James.
That
was James, but very similar to my whole race thing. And I don't know if it was before or after. It could have very easily been before. But he was like, there's a situation that occurs like a couple times a day during a live stream. It's so boring. There's no, like, it's just, how do we make this interesting? And James was like, let's just be sarcastic and go, everyone loves it when this happens. And that sort of turned into the jingle. And look, do I get a little bit of the cringe when we do it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember you having Lex Veldhouse in the booth, and was it Lex or somebody else that hated it? Like
Lex hates it. Lex hates it.
Yeah,
Sam
yeah,
Grafton will sometimes join in or join out.
No, Sam Grafton doesn't have a problem with it, but I think Lex just dreaded the moment.
Yeah, Lex really hates it. And if people are like, oh, that chop pot thing is cringe, like if they say it to me online, I'll just treat them like they're being mean because they have no reason. Like, I just don't like people that talk shit online. There's no reason to tag me in your criticism. You're more than welcome to tweet you don't like the chop pot song without tagging me, and then I'll never know. But in real life, if I'm playing with somebody and they're like, the chop, you know, if we have like a rapport, they're like, I don't know, love the chop pot song. I'm like, trust me, no one does. It's just a bit. It's just sorry. When I say no one does, what I mean is like, no one's going to die on that hill of it being like hilarious. It's just our thing. It's just what we do. People look forward to it. But like, I'll never be like, no, it's genius. It's a genius piece of, I'll never defend it to that degree.
I love it. And occasionally,
I'm glad you love it.
Hit that 10 and the perfect harmony. And Joe's frozen. Okay, now you're back.
I look forward to it.
And the 3-part harmony, it hits sometimes.
Okay, Joe, we got a serious question. Go ahead, Gabe. You got anything?
It feels like almost everything's organic. That's written in terms of like a joke, or are you guys kind of like messing around? Is there anything written ahead of time, like you said, those flips that you're doing? One has a mathematical advantage. Do you write those out ahead of time? Or?
Yeah, so I have a list of those versus things on my computer that I sort of bounce around like in the moment, which one sort of feels more appropriate. Which one do I think is the funniest? How many more am I going to have to use today? Am I going to have to keep some funny ones back? That's on a live stream. If you're watching a live stream, which is typically the video is like longer than an hour, it's all pretty in the moment, other than if I have like a couple of gags written out ahead of time, either like Monte Carlo's so expensive or one of those race situations. Everything else you're hearing is pretty much organic in the moment. Chop Hot song, obviously that's something pre-planned, but everything else, yeah, there's very little things written for us. Now, if you're watching something that's like an hour or less, and it's like something that was on TV, that's all completely pre-planned, written out ahead of time. I mean, I shouldn't say all, but like 95% of it is, because we are so structured in where our words have to go that it kind of has to be written, or you'll like step on someone's dialogue, or you'll miss a cue. We'll have to we're cutting back and forth to stuff. So you pretty much have to plan ahead of time. Not every single word, but I know what I'm going to say and when. And sometimes James talks longer than I'm expecting him to, so I don't end up doing that line I had planned in that spot. Or sometimes he talks a little bit less than I'm expecting him to in that spot, and then I'll just improvise something to get us, to the next thing that happens. So it depends if you're watching live or online. Live, 90% not written, 95% not written. TV is 95% written.
Gotcha.
How do you balance between actual commentary and the comedy? Like, how much they expect out of you as far as like poker commentary when you don't have a pro in the booth?
It just depends. It depends on like what is happening at the table. So if I'm like goofing off and doing a bit when there's like an all in or, a particularly dramatic moment, that would not go over very well. And the audience would hear, would be the first people to be like, what the fuck are you doing? I would see it from the audience before I would see it from any of my bosses. At this point, they trust us to do our thing and judge for ourselves when a bit has been enough and when the poker needs to be focused on. I haven't gotten a note about that in a really long time. It was a struggle for a while. I would get told like, hey, move on from this topic. Hey, enough about this. Hey, let's get back to the poker. But between sort of them getting me more and me getting them more, it just very rarely happens now. So that balance that you see is something that we've just sort of agreed to, I think, tacitly agreed to. It's worked for a while. Now, granted, maybe my bosses are just never listening anymore, and so that's why I get away with it. But I think that we're all at a happy equilibrium at this point.
That's awesome.
Would you ever?
It's really lucky.
Like, what's next for you besides EPT? Are there any new projects as far as poker commentary?
Sure, yeah.
Anything you can share, or is it?
So we've got the tour. I won't dwell on that too much, but if you're sort of in the Midwest to South over the next couple of weeks, we got a comedy tour. Hit me up so I can see if we're in your neck of the woods. And in August, I wrote a comic book during the pandemic, and it's being released in August. PokerStars is going to give away 1,000 copies at EPT Barcelona. They're going to put them in all the player bags. So if you end up qualifying for Barcelona, you're going to get a copy of my comic book, a unique cover for people at EPT Barcelona. And then we're going to launch. So the comic's funded already. It's already done. But I guess apparently one of the best ways to sell comic books is via Kickstarter. So at the same time, it'll go on sale to the rest of the world via Kickstarter. And so that was something I've been working on since 2020. So we're going on maybe 2021. We're going on like 3 years. This comic book has been in the works. So I'm excited to finally get that out there so I don't look like a big fat liar anymore. And
tell us a little bit about the book.
So this comic book company came to me. We were still in lockdown. So it was either 2020 or 2021. And they said, hey, like our business model is that we find like minor celebrities and we see if they have an interesting story to tell. And then we sell the comic book to their community. And then we go to Netflix and go, look, we just sold 10,000 copies of this in 2 days. You might want to make a movie out of this. And then we sell the movie rights. And I go, sure, yeah, I'll pitch you some comic book ideas. And I pitched them a few ideas. And the day we sat down, I was like, hey, can we write it together? And they said, sure, we'd love to have you write it. And so we sat down on the first day to sort of flesh out the story they had chosen. And I was like, hey, let me pitch you one more idea. It's like loosely based in my life. It's about this like poker commentator who gets canceled. He like loses all of his jobs and then he has to sort of play poker to make a living. And he wants to be more famous than he is. So he wants to play in these Hollywood home games. And they're like, oh, that's the story. That's the comic book. So that's the story. It kind of starts off like that. I end up getting, not too dissimilar from Rounders. I get sort of felted in the first couple of pages in this and end up having to take an offer from some shady people I didn't really want to take any money from, but I end up having no choice. And those people, we get into a little adventure.
There's a little drama.
Yeah, there's drama, action. There was a really filthy sex scene that I was like, please don't include this.
Spain. How are you portrayed in the comic? Is there illustration of you? Do you have muscles? Are you?
Oh like yeah, no, I'm very slender and handsome in the comic. It's like almost embarrassing. Like especially from like when we started drawing the comic book, I was more slender and more handsome than I am now, and it was still like embarrassing how much better looking they made me. Now I look even worse, so that disparity is even greater. I look like that people are gonna be like, you egomaniac.
By the way, did you like the picture that I used for the thumbnail? I actually ran it by AI. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I didn't. I don't know if I saw the thumb. Oh, with me at the table like this.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite pictures of me.
Really?
But I didn't notice that you ran through AI. No.
Yeah, I ran it. You can see your eyes look different. You can tell there's a difference here.
You just look like less of an idiot. I ran the no idiot filter through it.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I doing? Oh, that's you. Okay.
Here, I got it. Look at your eyes and look at your jawline.
Oh, yeah, you gave me a facelift. Yeah. I see it now that you pointed out. Jesus.
More jaw. You get more jaw. The eyes are bigger. It just fixes everything. Yeah, it's called Leonardo AI. You can run any picture and it improves it right away.
Yeah, I don't mind my real face being out there. That's I'd rather undersell over deliver. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I do with the podcast
up there. Yeah, exactly.
We need a big poker stack in front of him. He's got no chips. Did he just get felted? Like,
I had to fit everything together. He had chips in front of him. By the way, you're getting trolled with the finger up. These are the commentary from the people online.
Really?
I don't know if you know these guys or not. Roger Long. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah,
you know him?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a guy that's been on my Facebook page long enough that I recognize the name. Yes.
Okay. He said, "Is that the pull my finger joke?"
And Roger is well known for leaving. That's one of the funniest things Roger's probably ever left on my page. Some of it's probably completely unintelligible. He seems like a nice enough guy, so I don't really mess with him too much. But that's the best he has to offer right there.
That's his best performance.
Yeah.
I responded. I said, I feel like he's giving the finger to the Matrix. The reason I said that because your job is not a Matrix job. You don't work for the man, I guess. You do your own thing, kinda, with the stand-up comedy.
I'm not gonna say it is like, look, I'm not on like an assembly line or digging ditches, but everyone still works for the man in one way or another. I'm very, very lucky to have the job that I have.
Yeah.
But I still work for a big corporation. I still, I have so many bosses.
It takes balls, man, to take the line of work you took and actually succeed. It's not easy.
Very, very lucky.
Comedy, poker, being a musician, these lines of works, like it's a big gamble.
You gotta hit the jackpot. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Gabe, what's the over under on how many bosses Joe has?
How many bosses Joe has?
Oh,
at this time?
Yeah.
Like today?
Yeah. Big corporation, remember.
I'm like 6. Is this Office Space level? Do we have like 9? What was his?
I think 6 is a good number. Like, there's obviously, like, the CEO isn't my boss, but he is. Like, he listens to the broadcast. He listens to the podcast. So if he wanted to tell me, I don't think he would go to me directly, but like, he's awesome, by the way, and he's a fan. So we're very lucky in that respect. But like, yeah, I've got a TV boss, someone who a live stream boss. I got a couple of bosses on the live stream. Those bosses have bosses. I've got a boss as far as like PokerStars team pros are concerned. That person's my boss. That person's boss is also my boss. The social media department, they are my bosses when they want me to tweet something, and then her boss is also my boss. So yeah, I've got a lot of people. The good news is it's because people want to use me. They want me to be a part of what their sort of thing is at PokerStars, and so that's a good thing. That's why I have a job. But it does mean that I have a lot of people that if I mess up, there's going to be a lot of people that I'm disappointing.
So on a day-to-day, how often are you interacting with the bosses?
Like every day, one boss or another, including weekends, I'm interacting with one of my bosses at some point. Yeah, 7 days a week. But, that's good. It's good to be employed. It's good to be, and it's good to not, look, this is me working today. So,
Exactly. And that has to be an incredible team to be a part of. You guys have always leaned on each other in big ways, even way back in the day before you guys started trimming down the live streams and organizing the blind levels to smaller blind levels later on in the game. I'm talking about like 2015, 2016, when you guys ran for what, 20 hours straight, and you had a much smaller production team, but and that's evolved into something that I would assume has clear communication guidelines and open doors and that kind of thing. You guys are just coming across to me as a really great team.
Yes, thank you. And I think that what you said is exactly true, is that everyone at this point, from me and James to the producers, to the people who build the sets, to the people who run the cameras, everyone's really good at it at this point. Everyone started off pretty good at it, and now everyone's really good at it. Like, everyone knows exactly what they're doing. And that's really what teamwork is all about, is knowing that the person next to you is going to do the job so well that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about what's going on in that department because they're the best. And we're very lucky we have that on the PokerStars live streams, which, by the way, apparently no one in America had ever heard of except for you, Dana, when we won the best live stream award, and people were like, "What the fuck is PokerStars?"
You know what? I'm surprised. A lot of players, when I'm playing, I say EPT. Do you watch the EPT? Because I mentioned getting you on the podcast. They'd be like, "Oh, what's EPT?" I'm surprised that not a lot of poker players watch EPTs.
It has to do with the time difference majorly. I have to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to be able to watch a live stream, and same thing. I'm not
talking about the live streams. I'm talking about like episodes, like recorded episodes on YouTube. Like, you look up poker, they're gonna come up.
Yeah, I think that. No, Gabe, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I have a lot of friends that watch, and the production value is like the standard, in my opinion, in terms of everybody else I talk to. And there's other competition and stuff, but I think what PokerStars and EPT does is that's number one in my opinion.
Thank you, Gabe. We with as much humility as possible, we feel the same way. We think that what we put out is a really solid, good product that we're all proud of. I think of the people in America that aren't aware of it, I do think you still have a struggle to get some Americans to watch something with the word Europe in it. I think you struggle to get people to watch poker, especially really casual poker fans, with names that they might not recognize. Now, we have obviously tremendous poker players that we see at every EPT event, but I wouldn't say they're the ones that like the most casual fans, right? They don't know like the David Peters of the world. They don't know the Fedor Holtz of the world. They don't know the Adrian Mateos of the world. You kind of have to be like one step above super casual, and then you start hearing these names more and more. And I think that we still struggle a little bit to get American viewers to watch something that takes place in Paris. I also think that we've got the NAPT coming back. There's going to be another NAPT this year. I think it was just announced. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a live stream again from NAPT. I'm pretty sure we'll qualify more people this year. I'm pretty sure we'll get people from a bigger cross section of America. And I think that we'll get a more fanfare this year, because I think there's going to be a much bigger prize pool this year. So I think that, PokerStars is now trying to really speak to North America. And I think that NAPT is one way to do it. Big Game, obviously, coming back is another way to do it. So, I think that hopefully we'll be bringing that same level of production and excitement to more and more stuff specifically targeted at North America.
Yeah, I think there's only so much bullhorn you can do in order to get viewers to tune in regularly. They have to take it upon themselves to put the hours in to get to know the players, because the player pool is massive. And then you add on multiple countries in Europe on top of that as well. It is a big learning curve, but once you click in, like you said, you just keep tuning in and you keep picking up more and more.
Yeah, and like let's look at things from a character perspective, right? And I'll be the first to admit that EPT Paris, you had Eric Afriat. Where is he from? North America. EPT Monte Carlo, you've got Rania Nesruddin, who's like just a personality at the table, is kind of blowing people away, is getting people talking like no one has done on the EPT in a long time. Before that, earlier in the tournament, Wolfgang Poker is there, and he's a little bit polarizing, but he's doing stuff at the table. He's having a personality. And I think that, Americans watching European poker, you are going to see a lot less of that sort of excitement and exuberance because the players are thinking about the game on a slightly different level. And Americans are kind of a little bit more obnoxious at the table, which we see as personality. I think a lot of people might see it as obnoxious if it's not part of your culture, but the brash American, I think, is, something that if you're looking for that, you're not always going to get that from an EPT stream.
That's true. There was that guy Ratman, right? Who he shipped.
Yes, absolutely. Not saying there's none. We get it. We do get personalities, but I think that you're guaranteed to have someone who's like playing to the cameras at a North American event versus in Europe where there'll be like a little bit less often, less frequent.
Gabe, you said Ratman?
Yeah, he. I think Parker Talbot was on the final table. I think it was a 1K. I want to say.
It was the FPS. Yes, the FPS main event.
Recreational player, and he was having the time of his life, and I was entertained by it. Even though I could see how it would wear thin, I thought it was pretty funny, and I was glad somebody was having a good time on like a big stage too. They were playing for a pretty solid chunk of money.
People like that are polarizing, and my stance is always, if the other players at the table don't seem annoyed, I'm all for it. Like, do your thing, do your little dance. He was singing, he was going beep, bop, 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 whatever it was. People seem to find it mildly amusing. Great. It's tough doing a live stream. I know y'all have done a couple that you can't keep. People are nuts. They go, why is no one talking at the table? Why is this person talking so much at the table? It's just like there's no winning. So I would much rather see people be doing something. Let me kick back. Let me let the players do the talking. I love that.
Joe, let's talk a little bit about your dating life. I heard in the beginning of the podcast you mentioned girlfriend. The first podcast I watched with you and Joe Ingram, you were playing the game hardcore. So, and you said it's going to be hard for me to settle down. So she must be special. Let's talk a little bit about the girlfriend. How did that happen?
She's very special. She's wonderful. She's very funny. She's very attractive. She's very smart. She's very kind. She gets along with every single person in my life. It's like one of those situations where like everyone jokes about liking her more than they like me, which is perfect. Like that's what you want out of a significant other, is someone.
What's her name so we can give her a shout out?
I do not like to put her name out there because then people feel like they need to give me their opinion on her. And they go find her and then it's just weird things. And
is she a known figure in the poker world? Or
no, not at all. Very quite unknown. She's attended events with me multiple times, but no. She's outside of poker and she doesn't like attention. When she gets too many Instagram followers, she deletes her account and starts over. So I prefer to keep that attention off of her, but she is a delight and does not fuck with me ever. I'm just like, hey, I gotta go do this comedy thing. I gotta go do this poker thing. Cool. Have a good time. Great. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, you booked another gig. That's great.
I think this is the number one factor why a girlfriend would stay. My girlfriend is the same. What we like when we come home, somebody that doesn't nag, somebody that doesn't put put you in a box and say you can do this and not do this. What you're saying, what you described right now is the number one factor, I think, for a girlfriend to stay long term.
I think it depends on the person. Obviously, that's very important to you. It was definitely important to me, especially because I don't want to be with someone that I'm making unhappy. Like, let's leave the nagging out of it. Like, if they're unhappy, I don't really want that either, regardless of how it negatively reflects back on me. So my life was way too fun and way too easy being single. And, she made it very appealing to me to not be single anymore because she was my partner. She's on my team. We don't like get in each other's way when it comes to like being on each other's team. And sometimes that means, sacrificing a little bit of short-term cuddling for a long-term casino gig. You know what I mean? So So yeah, she's really wonderful, and we have the same sort of ideas of fun, which I think is also important in that most weekends we spend like 12 hours on the couch watching movies and TV shows, and neither one of us feels the need to go out or do anything. And what show should we watch next is like the only question we ask each other all day. And then
let's
also,
talk about a day in the life of Joe Stapleton besides the poker commentary. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Dana,
Go ahead, Dana.
Well, I'm going to pull out my marriage card of 11
Yeah.
years and just tell you that, you know, nagging goes both ways, but it goes both ways. The support goes both ways as well.
Sure.
That, you know, she's got a big gig somewhere in whatever industry that she's working on, and you're giving her that exact same support. And so that is a true blue partnership.
Yes, absolutely. I don't fuck with her either.
Sticking around. Yeah, don't fuck with me. Like I'm doing my thing because you're two individuals and you're partners in life, and however you determine that to be marriage or whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually at this stage now that even when I do get real mad at her for something, I'll go, look, I'm super pissy about this, but you're such an awesome girlfriend. Let's not make a thing out of it. Let's just not do this. And she'll do the same thing with me. We're just like, cool, like I'm really mad at you right now. Everything's gonna be fine. It doesn't have to be dramatic, doesn't have to be a huge fight, but also like don't fucking do this again. And you know, and we kind of, yeah, we have that sort, we have a very adult relationship in that way. And I think it's just lucky that whatever pushes our buttons, the other person's good at not doing it.
Yeah. And then, you know, forget, that's, you know, the one person that lives, you know.
How does she deal with you traveling all the time? And is she traveling with you?
She doesn't travel with me very much because there's not much she can do besides like and so just sit alone in a hotel room. I work 12 to 14 hours every single day that I'm on the road. If I'm lucky, it's like a 10-hour day, and maybe we could go to dinner. So for her to come be with me and just be that, it kind of like removes her independence, right? She's just sort of a person sitting around waiting for me. Whereas if she's at home in our home, you know, she does things on her own terms and doesn't have to be just my sidekick. She's living her own life. So she doesn't come very often. But you know, she deals with me being gone well enough. She misses me. She doesn't like it. She hasn't gotten to the point where she's like put any ultimatums down yet. But I also know that, you know, like I said, I've been home for like 40 days total this year.
Wow.
That's not a lot. That's not a lot. So if she did start to have a bigger problem with it, I would have a lot of empathy for that and try to find a solution.
Let's end this podcast with I have some rapid fire fun questions.
All right.
Like 10 of them. We're at the hour 50-minute mark. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite poker hand?
Do you want an explanation or just the answer?
You can do short explanation. Sure.
Coffee, like, come on. Everyone acts like they don't get high off of coffee. Getting high off of coffee is awesome. Coffee.
Of course. Favorite poker hand?
He says, I don't know. Let's do jacks. Everyone hates jacks. I don't mind jacks. Jacks are good.
You're going against the system.
We've got the jack of spades, the jack of hearts, the Joe Stapleton, the James Hardigan. That's fun. Like, who's got that?
Oh, there you go. Who's
got that?
No.
Yes.
I call pocket jacks the crazy X's because you never know what to do when they come around.
There you go. That's good. Crazy X's. Absolutely.
I like it. Dogs or cats?
I've never had a pet in my life. I don't have a strong. I get along with cat people slightly better because they're less obsessed with their animals. People
they just do their own thing. Cats, they do their own thing. They don't.
People who are like obsessed with their dogs, I find it very obnoxious. It's just like having a dog is like your entire personality. Like, ugh.
Twitter or Instagram?
Twitter. I still like Twitter. It's not my favorite place anymore, but I much prefer reading a one-liner to seeing a picture of whatever.
I don't get Twitter. I don't know what it is. I'm not that active on Twitter. I just don't get. I guess I'm old school. I like Facebook. I like to write the full sentence. I like to post pictures, videos.
Totally. It's Twitter is that Twitter's used to be a great exercise in joke writing, and that's what I loved about it. Like, how funny can you be in 140 characters, or 280 is even fine. But now, yes, all the humor has been lost from almost.
How much hate are you getting on Twitter?
These days, not much. But I also don't say much anymore. I also am like not really super vocal. I felt like there were times that it was necessary to be more vocal. than I am now. I feel like things are relatively in a state, there are obviously some pretty terrible things going on in the world right now. And I feel like whatever amount that I would upset people by saying things, I don't think I would be causing much good. So I have really
Let's talk about it for a little bit, not get too deep. But what do you think about the situation going on in the Middle East?
I've gone this long without really saying anything that's going to piss anyone off. I'm probably not going to do it now.
We're always going to piss somebody off,
of course. But what I can do is just say like it's pretty awful what's going on, and that's it. It's not really the sort of thing I feel like is necessary for me to weigh in on a poker podcast. That's all.
Well said.
Yeah.
Early bird or night owl?
Both. I love.
It depends.
I'm more of a. I'll tell you what. I'm not much of a night owl anymore. I used to be able to do both, but now I'm probably like by 8:30 most nights. I'm like, can I go to bed yet? Like, is it too early to go to bed? And
Really?
I typically wake up, by 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning most days, and like to get up and get my day going. So I'm definitely a morning person.
Favorite poker player to watch?
Phil Locke. Phil Locke's just so funny. He's a fun player. He has a ton of personality. He's completely insane. I love him.
Comedy club or live poker table?
Oh, comedy club. My goodness. Yeah. Wait, do you mean like to go hang out in?
Like being at a comedy club or playing live
like
poker?
As a punter, if I was like a person, like a customer, I'd rather play at a live poker table, I think, than go to a comedy club.
Oh, okay. So when you said comedy club means performing.
Yes. I'd rather be performing than playing live poker. That's for sure. Yeah.
Favorite city to visit for a poker event?
Prague's pretty great. Prague's kind of my favorite. It's super chill. It's reasonably priced. The people there are fun. It's right before Christmas time usually when I go, so everyone's in a good mood. Prague's pretty great.
Huh. So what city in the United States would you compare Prague to?
Oh, geez. I don't know if there is one.
I mean, like,
I guess
different.
I guess I don't think I could do anything that gives anything justice. Like New Orleans, in that it's reasonably priced and everyone's just kind of wants you to have a good time there. And but it's not, I mean, obviously the culture is like
structure wise, like
it's night and day.
An old city.
Oh, it's an old city. Yeah, it's cobblestone streets. I don't know.
So much culture there. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, Montreal probably, if I had to pick like in North America, but not just the US, Montreal's probably a little closer to Prague.
Sweet or savory snacks during a long commentary session?
Ooh, I'm a savory snack person in general. I don't really like sweets. But I also don't snack much, believe it or not. I just eat massive, disgusting, unhealthy meals at mealtime and don't really eat in between.
Reasonable. Favorite poker movie?
I think Rounders is pretty good. We can eliminate Rounders and just say that Mississippi Grind's pretty cool. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's a really interesting movie. What's Molly's Game? It's pretty great. I don't know if it's
Molly's
exactly a poker movie, but a great movie that has poker in it. So yeah, but Rounders is like the crown jewel. I don't think it gets. Do you guys think anything's better than Rounders?
No, but I like Maverick with Mel Gibson.
I don't mind Maverick. Yeah.
I haven't watched that one. What year was that produced?
I loved Maverick when it came out.
94, 92, 94.
It was about poker?
Yeah, they were racing to get to a poker tournament.
Yeah, it's draw poker, but it's certainly a poker movie.
I'm gonna write this one down.
I like Molly's Game. That's up my alley. It's a little sharper in terms of like the poker too. There's not, I wouldn't say like cringe. I hate using that word, but like Rounders kind of doesn't age well in some aspects.
Yeah,
they're both degen movies too, which I appreciate. Like the degen part of poker is great.
Yeah.
The storytelling in both movies was good. How Molly was narrating the whole time, that makes it more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I agree that poker is like, I always talk about poker movies and there's like this unwritten, or it's probably written screenwriting rule that voiceover is bad. That voiceover is like lame to put in your script. But I think that poker is such a game where you live in your own head that if you don't have voiceover, it's somehow even less compelling to watch. Like watching people play poker is not always compelling, but at least if you're in there in that first person journey with them, which Rounders has, which Molly's game has.
You don't like the voiceover?
No, I do. What I'm saying is it works in a poker movie for sure. I think it's almost essential in a poker movie to know what the player is thinking. Otherwise, who cares?
Right.
That's what you provide, right? On your coverage. You're basically the voiceover of
oh, well said.
Yeah, trying to do that. Absolutely. Absolutely trying to like, sort of take a journey with the people that are there for sure. Totally.
I love the storytelling, the voiceover in Goodfellas. That was the first movie. That's what made the movie really was Ray Liotta.
All my life, I want to be a gangster. See, I know the first lines to that movie.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't even like that movie that much, but that's how iconic
really
the voiceover is. Yeah.
Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
Boy, I don't really like either thing. I guess beach. I guess beach. But I would never go. I don't like going on the beach, but I like going to places that have beaches. So beach.
Beach. You're a good swimmer? You go in the water or no?
I doubt I'm a good swimmer. I know how to swim, but I think that any real trouble happens and it's going to be bye-bye Stapes.
Best poker moment you've ever witnessed live?
Well, I technically was there for that run at 4 times in the big game hand, which to me is still.
Oh my God, the one that Phil Hellmuth loses?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we actually should. I'm gonna find the clip. Yeah,
I was there for that, and I also said,
"Good one,
guys. We have to. Holy shit! Sorry, so many things here. We gotta show this episode first. We gotta show this. He wasn't supposed to be the first loose cannon. He was supposed to be like second or third or something. And everyone was like, yeah, absolutely. Like this has to be the first thing that people see when it goes out. So technically I was there live for that.
And how everybody was laughing in Phil's face. It's like they like to see him in pain. Favorite poker variant?
I kind of like playing Omaha high-low. There's a little bit more to think about. There's a little bit more action. If it's for low stakes, I kind of like to play Omaha high-low. I've never not had fun playing that game live.
I don't know. Gabe, you know how to play high-low?
My buddy's pretty good at it. I don't play it almost ever, but I want a game with low stakes that I can play and not feel bad about losing in, but learn. So I wish there was like more opportunities to do that, but I don't really allocate a lot of time to it.
I think I think you'd be better than I am at it, Gabe. Just knowing what I know about you, being able to play Hold'em, I think you'd be fine.
Well, I like to punt. I like to bluff. So I that's always like the first thing I want to learn is like, how do I possibly get people to fold hands that they shouldn't?
You can't, but you can get. That's the thing is like you can get them to get it in against you when you do have it more often. It's a little harder to bluff, but you can get people to get it in a spot where they're only going to win like a quarter of the pot because all they have is a low or something, and people hate folding lows. So you'd figure it out pretty quick. I mean, to at least my level, I'm sure.
One word to describe your commentary style.
I almost said the dumbest thing ever as a joke, and no one would take it that way. Irreverent. I don't have a lot of reverence.
Can you use it in a sentence
for what's going on? Like, I don't think using it in a sentence would help, but I don't revere the things that often that I am doing commentary on. I don't hold the players up on high. There are certain commentators that are like, this is the greatest poker player who ever lived. We're witnessing history here, ladies and gentlemen. Get in. And I'm just like, yep, here they go. They're all in again. So my commentary is irreverent.
Irreverent. Well said. That was quick too. Pajamas or suit and tie for commentary?
Pajamas for sure. Absolutely.
You can get away with that with the bosses over bosses.
As long as I don't have to be on camera, they're pretty chill about that. And I'm usually only
you can
on camera.
show up with like slacks and gym clothes, no problem.
We try not to wear shorts just because it looks unprofessional. It's just to be part of, like a production and all that. But other than that, like if I'm not on camera that day, I can wear a t-shirt and jeans, like, 5 days a week. No problem.
Nice.
That's pretty much hand the trophy, right? Or I guess maybe if you're doing skits or something like that.
Yeah, so it is pretty much on the whatever days that there's a trophy. So, for example, in Monte Carlo, for the FPS for the super high roller, and then the last day of the main event. Yeah, the rest of the days, I could wear what I like.
Tournaments or cash games?
I prefer cash games. My time is limited. I don't have a lot of time to play, and I feel like, you know, one of the worst things that can happen in a tournament is like you spend a lot of time and then you don't win any money or you don't win much money.
Which happens 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, like, you know, going it used to hurt most, like going broke in the first level, and now I'm just like, oh man, just do it to me now. Just do it now instead of like 14 hours from now. It's like too late to get dinner and I still haven't cashed in this event. So yeah, so I prefer a cash game, and also like cash games are a little bit more social. I'm a social person. I'm there. Like if I'm not having fun while I'm doing it, it's worthless to me. I'm not a plus EV player. I'm not a guy that's going to like clean the table out unless I run, you know, super, super hot. So show me a good time. And so I think cash is a little easier to do that as well.
Poker is more chill in general. You said it on one of your podcasts, like tournament players are more serious, less talking, less social. Favorite poker book or resource?
You know, I don't really have one. I tend to direct people to Jonathan Little when they ask me for a good place to start. He really seems to speak to new players really well, but I wouldn't want to discredit anyone else out there because there's so much information out there now, and I don't really follow any of it. Faraz Jaka appears to be doing really well as a coach. You know, he seems to have that same sort of knack for taking regular people and really making them into lean, mean poker players. So, but I myself don't really have anything. I read Positively Fifth Street before I took that first job in poker, and that made me really fall in love with Hold'em. But it's more of it's like a true crime novel more than it is.
Does it have any strategy?
It might have some really basic strategy in it because the guy talks about he went to Las Vegas to cover the murder of Benny Binion and entered the World Series of Poker when he went. And so like it's part true crime, part history of poker, and part about his journey. He ends up making the final table like in 1998 or something of the main event while he's there as a journalist. So, you know, he does go over hands and stuff. I think that the strategy would, if anything, like people would kind of laugh at whatever was going on back then strategy wise, but especially as an amateur. But I couldn't put it down.
What's the name of the book again?
It's called Positively Fifth Street.
Gotcha.
Benny Binion was the owner of Binion Casino?
Yeah, it's like he goes through the whole history of the Binion family in the book about. And I by the way, I'm saying Benny Binion got murdered. I think that's who it is. I wrote this book like 20 years ago, so I might be getting my.
Did they know, wrong. Or what was the motive?
Yes, I mean, do you want me to give the story away? I mean, it's pretty interesting.
No,
I'm just
no.
This is not fiction. This actually happened, right? It's not fiction.
Yes, it did actually happen, and he was there covering the trial. I won't say it's a pretty. If you like true crime or mysteries, it's a pretty. I mean, it's salacious. Don't get me wrong. A man was murdered, but it was done in a really sort of salacious way that really is a pretty gripping tale.
Last question, and we're gonna wrap it up. Describe the poker world in 3 words.
Oof. Good Lord. It's generous. It's insular.
Wow.
Let's see. I had one nice one, one not so nice one. It is. I'll go 2 words. It's easily triggered.
Triggered. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
What a big sigh from Carl right there. He's just like,
yeah.
Well, I guess that's it.
Did we touch on the troll factor in poker? I mean, like, did we actually go back to that topic of trolls?
Trolling? Yeah.
Speaking of triggered, but actually, a different topic I wanted to ask you, Joe, while you're here is,
sure.
women in poker, and what do you suggest all of us to do to bring both men and women into poker that don't normally, pay attention to this world?
So one of the words I used there was insular, which kind of means that poker is like very inside baseball. It's very gatekeepery. There's a lot of I wouldn't say it's not welcoming because the people are friendly, but then there's a lot of things that happen like, oh, you didn't put your blind out right. Oh, you didn't do this right. Oh, you called it off with A7 offsuit. There's a lot of mocking people who are new to the game. There's a lot of just general microaggression, unwelcomeness that I think sort of keeps people away a little bit, and that it's intimidating to men and to women. I think it's more intimidating to women because men are less afraid of like what would happen if they, if there was a physical altercation, where that's something that women have to worry about, like being murdered way more often than men are in general. But I do think it's intimidating to everyone in the beginning, and it takes a certain type of person to overcome that and to sort of decide that doesn't matter. When a lot of times it doesn't matter. A lot of times it is sticks and stones, but it's still not everyone can just ignore words the way that a lot of people, can. So I think it takes a certain amount of guts to do that. And I think standing up for people in general at the poker table when they're not being treated very friendly, being extra friendly to those people to counteract those sorts of things, reporting incidents of people being obnoxious at the table, maybe give them a warning yourself, like, hey man, stop being so obnoxious, and then see if people can knock it off, kind of stuff. I do think that there are probably some things we can do better to specifically attract women to the game. That I think, and also I think just having it, I think that a lot of what is maybe keeps women away from the game are societal things that have nothing to do with us. Things that we can't really help all that much. The fact that women make less money than men in general, like everyone seems to ignore that. They have less disposable income, like factually. So those sorts of things I think we can't necessarily help, but we have to go the extra mile to make it worth it for them.
Right.
Almost everyone I know that like runs ladies events is like, yeah, it does get ladies out to play poker. Great. Wonderful. And I think having pop culture adopt poker again, I think that we can't discount the moneymaker boom. Obviously was like a cultural phenomenon, and Rounders was a pop culture thing, and Celebrity Poker Showdown was a pop culture thing. And I think if we had another pop culture wave of, movies and TV shows sort of featuring poker and using more iconic female actors and sort of role models participated in that, I think that would help also.
Absolutely.
Dana,
from a few of those.
From your
Yes, sir.
perspective, why do you think more women don't play poker? From a female perspective.
We're shopping, we're running the household finances, we're bossing we're getting we're getting everybody where they need to go. And I believe it to be a bit of a novelty item for women just starting to even look at poker. It is a night with the girls to go play a ladies tournament. It is a lot of pressure to put a handful of dollars on the table when, I could be, checking out something at the discount store. You know what I mean? Not just a lot of that, I would say, managing your household.
Carl, if I could weigh in on this question too, all I would say is also that I see a lot of things regarding women in poker. And one of the mistakes I think we make is that women is not a monolith. It's not all just one thing. And like when everyone was arguing about Olga's magazine cover, right? Some women were like, I don't really care. Some women were like, cool, go, she can get her. Some were like, this is offensive to me as a woman. And I think that, that assuming that all women think and behave the same way is sort of a mistake we make sometimes too, is just be like, oh, there's like a lot of different opinions within this one group of people. And, obviously trying to cater to the greatest number of those possible and just listening to what those different opinions are. I think is helpful too, rather than just saying, well, I'm a woman and I think this, so I speak for all women. I think is maybe a mistake that we make too, because it's easier that way, right? It's easier.
That's a good point. That's I've heard both perspective. I've asked some women, and they said the whole thing about them being targeted at the table is not a thing for them, and they're actually aggressive. They're more aggressive than some guys. I had a girl like a couple days ago. She like 3-bet me 5 times out of 7, and it was weird. I'm like, what is this girl? Where does she come from? I actually asked her. She didn't want to answer any questions. We're kind of playing a game. I asked her like how long she's been playing poker. She's like, oh, too many questions. So I let her go. But there's that perspective that they're out there fighting for pots, then playing like the men at the table, and there's the other school of thought. I had a girl in a coaching session, and every time there's the spot that comes up, and she'd be like, oh, I couldn't get away with this because they come after me. And every time it was, and I'm like, you can't think like that because you're going to start making mistakes. She was always
I think that it's okay for her. I actually think it's okay for her to think like that. But as a poker player, if she wants to be a poker player, has to adapt to that, right? Like I think it's perfect.
Or use it as a tool too.
Sure, that's what I mean. Like, so if she's saying it as a reason to keep her away from the game, that I totally understand. If she's saying as a reason why, like, look, I have to play what people's perception is of me, right? And so, that's something that everyone has to deal with. But I do think she's probably not imagining that people go after her more often. I think that's
no, I think it's a thing. She's not imagining. Some men will go after some women, like if that woman is passive at the table. But if you're a woman that's aggressive, guys are going to stop going after you.
The default setting is probably to assume you're passive. But yes, I think that good players will eventually learn and adapt to the way that this player is behaving in particular. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, Gabe, Carl, you guys play tournaments and play cash on a far more regular basis than Joe and I. So do you have predisposed dispositions in how you're going to play a woman maybe you've never played before at the table, or do you treat them as any other poker player, just another person you've never played before?
Gabe, you want to go first? I'll go second.
Sure. I think anytime, like I'll be totally honest with this. I don't think it's like crazy. Like I stereotype everybody who sits down at a poker table, right? But you get in a lot of trouble, and because I've played so much, I have the privilege to like learn this. Is I need to, even if I have a preconceived notion of someone, you can apply this in real life. I have to start filling in the blanks as I learn more, as I make observations and assessments in real time, right? So if I just start like if some lady sits down and I think, oh, maybe she's passive, and I just like 3-bet her, it's really me saying how someone like responds, right? And it's not that I'm like doing that when just some woman sits down, but it's me doing that in any situation. So I'm really someone who is just all about like learning over time, and I'm not like going out of my way to, make crazy plays on specific people because I think they might have like specific inclinations. But I'm like observing and always like trying to like piece together the puzzle. So I don't know. It's like complicated, I guess, but I don't see it as any different as me stereotyping someone who's old or someone who's like a young kid in a hoodie or whatever.
Yeah, I think with the language we use matters a lot too, right? I don't think anyone actually would disagree with what you're saying there, and even stereotyping. I would just, to protect yourself, just be like, I'm always like reassessing people. I'm always like making an initial reaction, initial read on somebody, which is saying the exact same thing. But it just, sometimes you'll say the word stereotype and then people are like, oh, just once you say that, you've completely eliminated that person from listening anything you have to say. Whereas I totally understand what you're saying. And like almost every poker coach would be like, hey, you got to start from somewhere. You got to start from somewhere when someone sits down at the table. And, obviously things about someone's gender, their age, how they're dressed, they're all going to factor into what that initial judgment is.
This is gold, what you said right now. When I sit at the table, Dana, the first 30 minutes is a clean slate. I have some preconceived notions on somebody, the way they look, how their hair is done, how they're all put together, clean shaven, they work out, they don't work out. So I have some preconceived notions, but all that changes after the 30 minutes when I see showdowns. So I see what they're doing in hands. Are they aggressive? Are they passive? Their bet sizing on certain streets. I'm picking up all that information, and my notions are changing in real time, and I'm trying to adjust to that, to what they're doing. So like the girl I mentioned, I opened the first time she 3-bet me. Preconceived notion, a girl 3-betting means a strong hand. I'm like, okay, I folded. I had like a hand that should fold. I had ace jack offsuit. Out of position, 3-bet. Her range is going to be strong. Queens plus, fold. She 3-bet me. The second time, same notion. Okay. The third and fourth time, now we're going to war. She can't be getting that many good hands. I know she's capable of 3-betting light. So I know she has history in playing poker. She studies. So now I'm playing a different game. So see how I had in the beginning a notion that her 3-bets are value. Now, when she's 3-betting that often, I know it's part of her game. I know not all these hands have to be value. So now I'm fighting back. So I start going post flop with her. So see how it changed. Her sex didn't play that much of a role. Being a girl, being a guy, 90-year-old or 30-year-old, it plays a role in the beginning, but then it changes. I'll see what they give me.
Yeah, I think Gabe's saying something very similar. It's just like, okay, it's just a baseline.
Yeah. Yes.
Baseline assessment of a person and very malleable from there on out. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like when you meet somebody on the street or at a poker room. Once you see them, you have a preconceived notion. That's how we all think. The way they dress, the way they carry themselves, and they might give you something completely different when they start talking. They might look boring and unassuming, and the guy could be a CEO of a company or a gangster.
Yeah.
The whole
and
thing
you can also say you can play up your stereotypes as well, which the easy thing to do is the whims of a woman to play up, right? But also it's scary when a woman plays back aggressively, and it takes your opponent off guard. So she did scoop a couple of blinds from you.
So
that's what she did get.
If she was getting out of line, yeah, but a good poker player is good at adjusting in real time. You can study and be a nerd and know all this, be a human solver basically, but if you don't know how to adjust in real time, you're not gonna have good results.
And she picked a good opponent to do that to, because you're one of the people that will fold to the 3-bet and not take it to the streets with her just because you don't want to fold to a lady.
That's another great point, because some guys have so much ego, and the whole dynamic of a girl.
The person was saying, in your previous anecdote, she's like, I couldn't get away with that. This person you were playing against figured out one of the guys she could get away with that 3-betting light. She didn't get away with it forever, but she was like, okay, well, this dude seems like he is going to play reasonably against me and not differently, just because of this reason. And so, and then, good targeting on her part, good adjustment for her perceived.
It's a great exploit if I keep folding. If I keep my preconceived notion, and she 3-bets me and I'm folding 7 times in a row, now she's exploiting me big time. But
I mean, even the couple of times that it worked, and then now she may adjust to your adjustment. That's,
She did.
Yeah.
She did. I mean, the
That's
time
poker.
I went. Yes. It's all about you exploiting them exploiting you, and that's finding that balance. Guys, it's been fun. Joe Stapleton, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Sure, I'm so glad we solved the women in poker issue. Thank God.
We solved it in like 10 minutes.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
God, that was
the million.
I'm working on it.
A job. That was just, hey, let's just high five each other for figuring that out, huh?
We can do like here in the center screen.
Up there.
High five. Yeah, there you go.
We did it.
Thank you so much for coming. Gabe, thank you for co-hosting. Dana was so excited about I think you did great.
Oh my God, so excited.
Thank you for having me.
You can come on anytime, man. I'm a longtime fan for sure.
Hit me up in a year.
Sure.
Yeah, after your book hits.
Yeah, no, hit me up. Give this a little time to breathe, but I'm certainly happy to come back on again.
Yeah, of course. That's it. Anything you guys want to add?
Nope. Absolute joy. Thanks for having me here with you, Carl.
All right, guys.
See you later.
Cheers. Cheers, Joe. Peace, guys.
Take care, y'all.